damn. My fingers keep cramping. Ugh. All right, guys. I'm just waiting for someone to come on who wants to debate me on Ron Paul Bolshevism, MAGA communism, Strelnikov cowboyism, New Hampshire republicanism, New Jerusalemism, Christian communism, apostolic communism, Republican socialism. I don't know. Can come up with myriad terms for the same thing. Space LaRouche, I don't feel like you want to debate me, but I'll put you on. What you got, buddy? I want to debate. I'm feeling ornery. Got a lot
Hello?
of fuckers in my mentions. I want to debate.
Hey, I want to ask you, so you just mentioned New Hampshire. Why does it seem like a lot of people in New Hampshire are pretty based, like the libertarians?
They're based as fuck. They always have been. It's the live for your die state. But I love, like, dude, people are super bigoted against like New Hampshireans, or if they're like on the Vermont side of the New England divide here. But back in the day, I don't remember exactly when, but there's a big movement for libertarians to move to New Hampshire. I believe in like the 70s, 80s, 90s. I don't remember quite when, but a lot of people did. So it's like a big like state for those people. They're like homesteaders, people like who are very like Second Amendment kind of Republicans, I guess you could say. People skeptical of the federal government in general.
Yeah, that's what I love about those people. Like, whenever I talk to them, they seem good on all that stuff. But then they're like plagued by like this TPUSA type disease of being like, my free markets, and just like, oh, the government can't ever spend a nickel on anything,
No, the
Like,
thing
they
is
wouldn't.
that I think they're correct in some ways because they're against like federal spending, because they don't want to inflate the powers. They're like more like states' rights libertarians, like small government libertarians, minarchists, or however you want to put it. There's a myriad terms for this, but I think there's actually a lot, like Austrian economics and all these people they read, like Rothbard, Mises, etc. All of these people are operating in the same like tradition of neoclassical economics that Marx was. So they're actually speaking a much closer like vocabulary, and they have like closer intuitions and understandings just because they're more emphasizing economics as like a science, than say, the sentimental socialists who are just like, oh, something bad happened, give $1 billion to the NGO that will stop the bad thing from happening. Like, they're not like that. So I think they're like, even if they're misled and like misinformed, and like led in specific ways by propaganda, they actually have to be led on like a type of economics oriented propaganda, like, talking about free markets. I was saying this the other day, right? If you ask any of these people, it's like, hey, do we have free markets right now? They'd say no. And it's sort of the same way where it's like, if you ask, so if you, they'd be like, we have like a type of like socialism. And I agree with them. I think they're perfectly correct to say that we have a type of socialism. We don't have a free market society. It's not a capitalist society. I don't think that we can go backwards to capitalism in the way that they might advocate for, like return to the gold standard or something like that. They have sort of like, they're infected by like George's thought, like Henry George is where they go off the rails. Michael Hudson talks about this all the time because like he has debates with Georges over this stuff all the time. But I think it's good if you're having debates over economics instead of just being like, these purely like ideological issues of being like, you're a bigot or whatever. I like they're like
Yeah, that's why they're
yeah, they're
great.
great.
They
They're like,
actually do
they
talk
take
to
things
you. They do talk
seriously.
to
They
you.
take things like very
But
seriously.
a lot of the times their objections are like just very silly. Like, for instance, if you talk about getting rid of the Fed, and they don't plan on replacing it with the national bank,
Well, that's
they
the
would
thing
think
is
like
that what you
actually
have to do,
directing credit
they
is
all
like
have their own,
debt
they all
slavery.
have their own, they all have their own proposals, right? All of them are kind of like these harebrained schemes for what they would do to end the Fed, right? But we're the only ones who can give a positive answer to how you actually end the Fed, right? And you end the Fed by creating like the Treasury, like giving the power that the Fed has back to the Treasury under a people's government, while also like
Exactly, but
dissolving
they
the
hate
majority
that
of the
idea. They're
federal
like,
state.
how do we get them to more accept that though?
We
Because
talk
they,
to
to
them.
them, they're like, oh my
We
god,
talk
that's
to them. We talk
statism.
to them and we
It's
give them
like the worst thing
arguments.
ever.
We talk to them and we give them good arguments. That's how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but it's hard. And I think, I don't know, you said the neoclassical economics, like based in Adam Smith that Marx was in. It's because I think that these people see, they don't think that human beings actually can know how
Most of them
to
haven't read Marx.
solve
The thing is, right?
universal
The thing is that
issues.
most of them have avoided reading Marx because they've been propagandized to not read Marx and Engels because they've been told that these people are like the just like tyrannical fascists who like hate liberty and like freedom and all these things. They're like, oh yeah, of course I'm not going to read arguments in favor of like the elimination of freedom and like I want to own my own house. Like they think that Marx is saying that like you shouldn't be able to own your own house. They don't understand the distinction between like property and bourgeois property that they're trying to make. So really, what we have to do is we have to be like, actually, you guys are closer to Marx than you realize. You would agree with Marx a lot, and you know what I mean. Like that's really our struggle is to redefine like this tradition, like give them back like things that are kind of rightfully theirs that have they've been propaganda. Like the reason why they feel that so strongly about this stuff is because they were the most important people to propagandize against reading Marx, right? If these people start reading Marx, it's actually dangerous.
Yeah, because they have military backgrounds a lot of the time and shit like that, and they
Yeah, they're
actually
like
have
veterans.
skills
They're like
too
ex-military people.
to
They're like a lot
build.
of people, and they're like the people who have like had real experiences with how the government actually is, and like they don't give a fuck about what the media says about them because they know by their own experiences that what they're saying is true. Like they're like, no, this is all fucking corrupt. The military is basically this giant like corporate socialist enterprise out of the Department of Defense. They want to dissolve it. They hate the foreign wars. They hate foreign interventions, and they have a strong line, and they will never budge on that.
So, do you think that it's actually fruitful though to? I mean, obviously, I've been doing it with the MAGA communist thing, but do you think it's actually fruitful to use this type of language and to talk about Marx?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're already creating discourse. We're already creating discourse around it. And we're great. Like, I get people all the time who come from that tradition. And honestly, I much prefer talking to these libertarians and like people who are like talking about Christian economics and things like that, the abolition of usury. I much prefer talking to these people than talking to these fucking like social democrats who have no fucking idea the first thing about economics.
Yeah, yeah. I just got done right now, like 10 minutes ago. I was talking to some Republican guy who's a big MAGA guy, and using the Bible, like I mentioned in Genesis, how God commands us to be fruitful and multiply, and I contrasted that, to the green fascist vision of humanity as just like a parasite, and people can really see it.
Yeah,
And
they can. They already
and
see it. The thing is that the problem is that the way that they articulate themselves is not perfectly accurate, right? The way that they articulate themselves isn't like perfectly accurate. So they get these like sort of like theory cells who are like, oh, these people aren't articulating things in a perfectly accurate manner. I'm so much smarter than them because I went to school and I have I have college words to use, and that means that like I'm not like they're not worth talking to. They're just a bunch of bumpkins. But they're really talking about these self-educated people. Like that's what they're talking about is self-educated people, people without credentialed education. What they do is like these are people who read economics textbooks in their free time. Those are my people.
or they just read like online shit. Like that's what I did when I was 16,
I mean, it's
17,
all online, but
and
that's what I
then
mean. That's what I mean. Like they're going on like the Mises library or whatever, and they're like
yeah.
reading they're like reading like, hardcore like economic debates over things and they like take positions on them. The thing is that their tradition completely ignores Marx.
Yeah. Do you know like where that like emerges from? Like as a like obviously it's been blatant that they've been trying to do this to these people. Like
So it comes from ex social democrats, right? It comes from people like a lot of these people. They were like their parents were Trotskyists, etc., and then they become very like they start to hate all of the people who are like Trotskyists and social democrats, and so they became the first origin. That was like the first origin of the new right in the first place, right? That like post leftist new right like this happened in the '60s.
interesting. Well, thanks for having me on, Logo.
For sure.
Good
I
talking
really
to you
want to
like
debate
always.
someone. I'm looking for an argument right now. Like, but I appreciate you coming on. So I don't know. I put a more antagonistic title on this one because I've been fucking dealing with so much shit because I'm defending Alex Jones and I'm against defamation laws. But guess who's on my team with that? Fucking Ron Paul.
Yeah. What do you think is the future for Infowars now, especially
I think the
after
whole point
this?
is just to make it impossible for them to operate. Like that's really the whole point. The whole suit was really just to shut down Infowars as a platform in its entirety because they couldn't just by banning him from the internet. So now they have to financially destroy him. Like payment process, like he's just going to be incapable of doing what he does. Like that's the whole goal. It's not really about the family. It's not really about what it's about. It's about just making it impossible for Alex Jones to have a major media platform. That's the whole point.
It's very scary because I remember Alex Jones was the first real big name that was banned off of like Twitter and YouTube. And so I feel like they always
Yeah,
use
it's
him
the
as the first person for
yes,
everything.
exactly. And I have people being like, actually, according to current defamation laws, this isn't expanding the scope of what currently qualifies as defamation. Like, I'm talking about what is justice, what is the good, and they're like, well, the letter of the law here says that actually this is fine. They're just fucking cops. Like, these people are fucking cops. Like,
The
at the
Nazis,
same time,
bro.
they're like, hey, actually, our system is not just, and actually, like, there's all these problems, and like, our justice system is corrupt. But actually, at the same time, like, I agree with like all of the prevailing judicial norms. It's just like, you're not a revolutionary, dude. You're a cop. I hate these people. Like, I'd much rather talk to Ron Paul libertarian MAGA people. I like those people. I do not like social democrats. This is like why I like, I kind of went through this. I can see how it happens that these people like, where did Mises and Rothbard come from? It's like, well, they really fucking hated Trotskyists. And it's like they kind of maintained some of their Trotskyism in their negation of it. They kind of did a one-sided negation of their socialistic ideals. But I'm more in favor of like MAGA communism. I like Chinese style MAGA communism, Republican communism.
It's so funny, the hilarious little like dialectic, because for instance I just recently saw one of my MAGA friends who's he's a black dude, like a black MAGA guy, and he went on this podcast called the Anarchist Hotep. And it's funny because you see exactly why they call themselves anarchists. It's because they see that the state is bullshit. They see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they hate the federal government. And like I've been there. I remember when I was an anarchist, and I wasn't an anarchist because I hate like the good things the state does. I like having like roads and things like that. And that's always the problem with like these libertarians, right? The question is like, well, who builds the roads? You ask them about like you just have to make a basic distinction between things that qualify as part of the Commonwealth and things that qualify as like particular goods, basically, where it's like, we should all own the highways because nobody in particular should own them, but we shouldn't all own your house. It's like very simple stuff. It's like that's what the abolition of bourgeois property is.
I don't know. This might be a lazy question, and it's kind of maybe a little bit off topic. But how does how does Deng Xiaoping like relate to this whole dialectic? Because I haven't really
Well,
studied that
basically,
much.
what you have to understand, right, is that like if you're going to be a communist in the 21st century, that means recognizing the Soviet Union as the failure that it was, and that means that the United States, as Alexander Kazhev said, was actually closer to communism in that time period than the Soviet Union was.
During
The,
which period?
during the period of the Soviet Union's existence.
After Stalin or before
Well, I
Stalin?
mean, after Stalin, obviously. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
Stalin, well, the thing is that Stalin was our buddy for a long time. Uncle
Yeah.
Joe. He's a
Yeah.
good old American boy.
Yeah. I just recently discovered how deeper that goes from reading some pieces that someone within the organization wrote. It's very interesting. Anyway, thanks for the great conversation, Logo.
For sure, man, for sure. All right, I am looking for a debate of some sort, so I'm going to remove you. And otherwise, I'll just end up rambling, and you might hear me try to play this riff on my guitar a million times in the meantime. Ugh. I'm trying to get back into playing guitar, but my fingers get cramped really fast because I haven't done it in a while. But it's fun. I highly recommend learning how to play an instrument. It's like endless entertainment for yourself perpetually. I think, everyone, if you're an American, you don't know how to play guitar. Like, I don't know. You should probably learn at least the basic chords. Well, I'm smoking a cigarette, I guess, waiting for someone ornery to come on. Got a lot of people who are like, just like they like I'll be like, yeah. So I've been literally like physically assaulted by members of my family for politically disagreeing, and they're just like, base. That's great. Like I love whoever did that to you. Like the way people argue with me is just so base in like a vulgar sense, not based. All right, Neo Alpha, you're a speaker now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. What's up?
What's up? I think we talked the other day about various topics, but just looks like you wanted to debate something, so just calling back in. Um, I guess we could talk about I guess your political ideology.
Sure.
So I've heard a,
I wouldn't really call it an ideology. I'm more into principles. I think ideology is bad. I don't want to have an ideology. I don't have an ideology.
okay, okay. So yeah, whatever your principle is, or so doesn't it does seem like you guys are just like more like towards like the MAGA movement now.
Yeah. Well,
So
I always have been. I
okay.
always have been from the beginning. So it's not really like a shift for me. Like I have always like supported the people who are in MAGA. Like I'm closer to them.
Hmm.
I align more with them than I do the people who are like rabidly opposed.
Hmm. Yeah, my main concern with MAGA communism is that I think it would actually work. That's actually my main concern.
Yeah, that's your. Oh, that's great. That's a great argument. Yeah, you
Like,
know that it would actually work.
yeah, that and it kind of scared me. Like I sat back and thought about it for a little bit, and
Why does it scare you?
just because of the casualties of communism in the past. I think it would be disastrous, to be honest. There would be
What
millions
about the
dead.
casualties of the current system?
I mean, those casualties aren't directed by like a single party or anything, right? It's usually, it's usually the market. People are
So it's
poor.
okay. It's okay when the market does this, but not if like, not if there's some casualties from a people's government, deposing the deep state and their defenders.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like organized, it's going to be a lot worse than if it's more quote unquote natural, right? It's
I
not
don't
the
think
same
that's
thing.
true at all. I don't think that's true at all. Usually, actually, the reason why there's so many casualties of the current system is because there isn't an organization. We kind of have like an oligarchic, like tyrannical anarchy.
Yeah, but it's not run by like one like despot tyrant, right?
So it would be better if it was, because then someone would be accountable for it.
Yeah, but who cares if he's accountable if he can never be taken out of power?
What do you mean he can't be taken out of power? If you had like what if the person who's in charge no longer is serving the people, then like they're taken out. That's how it
I mean,
works.
in theory, but that's not always how it works. There's,
Oh, okay. So we can talk about hypothetical problems in the future, like, hypothetical oversteppings of power,
I mean, it
hypothetical
happened in
infringements
literal
on
communist
things, but
countries, though,
that's
right?
going to happen in every single state ever.
Yeah, but like, I mean, we can look at past communist states and make this argument. It's not
What
like
about
it's.
current communist states?
I mean, how many are there? It's like
China?
Vietnam,
Let's talk about
Vietnam,
China
China.
specifically.
Okay. I mean, yeah, they seem to be doing well right now. I don't know if
Okay.
people. Yeah,
So
it's
maybe we should be doing well.
yeah, but we're not Chinese, so that's the
No, but
thing
the
too.
Chinese style of communism is directly inspired by American republicanism. That's like where all of these the Chinese communist revolutionaries were educated in the first place. I was retweeting this earlier today, but it's something most people don't know much about. But yeah, the Boxer Indemnity Program brought a lot of young Chinese people over to be study in American universities at the height of what you could call American republicanism, American Republican socialism, even you could say. So these are people who are like deeply inspired by people like Emerson, and they're deeply inspired by the American revolt against the British Empire for obvious reasons. And they look to America in the late 19th century as their inspiration, like what they wanted to someday reach was the level of flourishing and success that our society had at that time. And that's been their goal ever since. They're actually deeply, profoundly right now, the Chinese state could completely destroy America by fucking around with our bond markets and shit, which they have so much leverage over, and people in power here know that. But the Chinese are actually want to work with us because they've taken a lot of inspiration from America. I mean, Xi Jinping studied in Iowa. He has friends in Iowa.
I mean, yeah, but the main problem is that you can't just copy a system one to one, right? Like we're not
No, of
Chinese.
course not. We're talking about we want it with American characteristics, communism with American characteristics. We're not
Yeah, I
trying to
get.
turn everyone into Chinese people. Like that doesn't make any sense. What we're saying is that we can take inspiration, we can learn from their success, the way that they learn from our success.
Yeah, I'm opposed to like this populist. Uh,
Do you love the people?
I don't know what that means,
Like
but
the people as an entirety. Like, do you love Americans? Like your fellow citizens? Do you have love for your country and your people?
I mean, I like the people around me. I like my friends and
So not
family,
in their
but
entirety. You only like a few people, but not the many. You would not go to bat for the many. You would not defend Americans as a whole.
I mean, as a citizen, if I was running the country, I would, I would obviously take into account everyone. But
That's populism, isn't it?
I mean, that's what every government says they
No,
do. So
okay, but what about one that authentically does that?
I think people try to do it. Maybe it
You
doesn't
think
work,
so?
but
I don't think they do.
yeah, I mean, even as bad as Joe Biden, or they say
I
they
don't think
that
Joe
the
Biden gives a fuck about Americans.
I don't know about that. Maybe he doesn't, but
I don't
you
think
know,
he does. Tell me why you think he does.
I mean, he says he does, and now
Okay,
maybe he,
I mean, how does he demonstrated this in reality and not
yeah,
just
but
in speech?
but he can't just do things carte blanche, right? Like he has to actually, like he has to sort of work within the system. So I'm not saying Joe Biden's great, by the way. I'm not really particularly a fan of him, but I'm just saying, like
No, I'm
every
saying what
president
in his
says.
entire career has demonstrated that he has a love for the American people as a whole.
I mean, hasn't he done things like the debt relief stuff, and
What
hasn't he
debt
done
relief stuff?
like the federal debt? Didn't he like eliminate like a certain amount from federal debt recently?
What do you mean? We've been printing money like mad. The debt is skyrocketing.
Or like maybe student loans? I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So what they did was that they give you $10,000 off your student loans if you qualify for X, Y, and Z, and if you got them from a particular package. And then what they did most recently is they said, "Will forthcoming information regarding like this student loan stuff, and whether or not you qualify, will come out tomorrow." And then the thing that they put out the day after was saying that yesterday was the last day that you could get this.
Yeah, I mean it's not perfect. Again, it's not. But
It's a fucking con, dude. He didn't. If you wanted, like, if you wanted real debt relief, what you would do is you'd abolish the entirety of student loan debt as it is right now, and you would
yeah, but
let the
that's not
fucking
even
you'd let
realistic,
the
right?
why. Okay, so you're just saying that you can't imagine the possibility of something like that happening.
Yeah, I don't see it happening here. If
Okay,
person
but
who
we
were
want that to happen. I want to make that happen. Do you want to make that happen, or do you think that we shouldn't even try to make that happen because you can't imagine it right now?
I mean, I guess you should try. Yeah, I agree. You should
Okay,
try,
because we
but
want to actually do it, right? Not because we want to, like, maybe do it, but because we actually want to do it and make it happen.
yeah, I mean, I don't particularly care too much about student loans, to be honest. But
Why? It's like saddling all your people with debts. Don't you care about your people?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not great. Like maybe the way debts are sort of given in general isn't great, but I
Do you
mean,
think that how much do you think college should cost?
not much. I mean, I mine was paid
Okay, how
off,
do we
so
make
I
it
didn't have to
cost
pay for
less?
it. But.
How do we make it affordable? How do we make it so that it's like back in the day when the boomers were going to school and it cost like $800 in the contemporary dollar a year to get housing, education, and fed? How do we get that to happen?
Well, I guess either there has to be some sort of price control, it has to be completely privatized, or it has to be completely public. I guess it's one of those three.
Okay, how
Uh,
about we go with price control? So we set the amount that we think is reasonable for a student for an education, and we don't allow it so that people can get saddled with debt because it's bloated. The costs are bloated to fund all of these administrative bureaucrats. Maybe if we make it so that these colleges have to work within those means and they actually have to serve the students more than their bureaucrats, they'll fire the damn bastards.
yeah, I mean, price control is not a bad idea. I prefer like
Okay, how would
more
we get
private
that done?
incentives, but
How would we get
uh,
that done?
in this current system, you probably won't get it done. To be
Okay.
honest,
Well, the thing
yeah.
is I didn't say like blah blah blah. Give me like a percentage estimate as to the current system, like this happening tomorrow. I'm saying hypothetically, in a world where we have a state that actually work like that, we are you are let's give you're the dictator of the proletariat. How are you going to get it done?
I guess you would just pass the law. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah,
you're
you could
asking,
just do
but
an executive order on this.
yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah,
what we want,
okay, yeah,
and
but
not hypothetically, and we don't want an approximation of that. We want that and nothing but that. Nothing less than that.
my main concern is that I do think that model communism would actually work, and that there's going to be excess of deaths that you're not taking into account, or you're like
What about the
sort of
debt you're
justifying
talking?
it.
You're just fear porning, right? Because it's like there's how many deaths are happening today? How like do you think that we're not at war all the time? The class war is happening all the time. You're worried about the bourgeois casualties, but you don't care about the poor casualties every single day.
I mean, it's not in the millions.
What do you mean? How many people are in our prisons?
Yeah, but those aren't just those are. I mean, people. I mean, you're going to always have prisoners, right? And they
For what
committed
crimes
crimes.
though? For what crimes? In what prisons?
Yeah, I mean that's a question that maybe I don't know, but I
Why
mean
aren't the
I guess
bankers in prison? Why aren't the Sacklers in prison for what they
uh,
did in the 2000s? The opioid epidemic and the bailouts, like the fucking Wall Street collapse. Why aren't these people in jail? That's
I
who I
mean
want jails for. I want jails for those people. I
I
don't
mean,
really
what did
care
the
about
Sacklers
people.
actually do
I don't
though?
really
What
care
did they
about
do?
people selling marijuana. Do those people need to go to jail? I think not. There's a ton of people in jail for that.
Yeah, no, I'm against marijuana. Yeah, I'm against people going to jail for marijuana, obviously. But I mean, what did the Sacklers do though? Didn't they? Everything they did was legal, right?
No, they didn't. They paid off. They paid off. They paid off and promoted complete pseudoscience regarding how addictive OxyContin was. And then they went around and they sold it and they gave people, doctors, premiums for prescribing more opiates to more people because they were making a fucking killing selling opium, obviously.
Okay, okay. So they actually broke the law somehow.
No, they didn't break the law because they
Okay.
write the law.
Okay, so they didn't break any laws. So why
So
would
you're
they
talking
go to
about the
jail?
letter of the law, but what they did was wrong. And we're saying that
Maybe,
where
but
the law fails, we want justice. We want real justice. We're going to rectify that. We're going to change the laws. We don't like. Do you like the system as it is? Do you think this represents justice?
I mean, specifically back to the Sackler thing. If they didn't break any laws, I don't see why they would go to jail. Maybe you can fine them, but didn't they get
My
fined?
God, man. So you're saying effectively that if we did, like you think that justice is represented by the prevailing letter of the law, like you just defending the system as it is, and you're saying that if people aren't technically committing crimes according to the letter of the law as it is now, then they're not criminals. I disagree.
I'm saying we should pass laws that if we didn't encompass if the current laws didn't encompass the Sackler actions, then maybe we should update the laws.
Well, maybe
But
who writes the laws
I
today?
mean,
Who's writing your law? Is it you? Are you right? Are your interests reflected in the letter of the law? Who's writing these laws?
yeah, I mean, you could say that they're bought and compromised by private interests and whatnot,
Well, yeah, of course they are.
but yeah. So I see what you're saying. I mean, that can be argued, but that would be an entirely new tangent. So I won't go there. But um, I mean, the Sacklers obviously did get fined, right? Maybe their fine was too low. Maybe we should, maybe the
Their
government should have
fine
fined
is
them more.
like all of these people, like their fines realistically, like Alex Jones apparently did 25% of the damage that the Sacklers did. I don't know. The
Yeah,
Sacklers killed my fucking uncle. You know how many people I know who are victims of the opioid epidemic, like in reality?
no, I know. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people. Yeah, I know people that were also hooked on that stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, if we had mob justice, the Sacklers would all be hung or something. But
Yeah. Do you would you
uh,
would you be like opposed if we fucking publicly executed the Sacklers? Like, I don't know. I'm saying hypothetically in Minecraft.
yeah, I personally wouldn't care, but I'm not for mob justice
Oh,
in
but you were
general.
worried
So
about the casualties, right? You were worried about the
yeah,
casualties. Well,
but
maybe
if
that's sort of what the casualties would look like.
yeah, and if I had to choose one or the other, I would say maybe we not do that. But just because
Why?
it sets a bad precedent, and it's
Okay, you
gonna.
don't think that people who sell, who are like literally addicting Americans to opiates and like ruining their lives and communities, like those people don't deserve like the most punitive measures available? Like, who does?
I mean, again, it's like I know they do this in China, right? They like execute everybody. Like they execute like people that commit white collar crimes. They execute everyone, but that's just not the culture we have here in America,
Why?
right?
Why not? Why isn't that our culture?
Because it probably shouldn't be that way, right? That's kind of
Why?
like
I think
a
it should be.
barbaric way
I
of.
think it should be that way. I think it should be that way. I think people who have that level of power and capital at their disposal should be held to much higher standards than just the average everyday citizen. And if they fuck up, they should deal with really, really bad punishments.
Yeah, but I think everyone should have the same law, right? Like they should be held to the same standard. Like one person shouldn't be held to a higher, unless you're like in the government or something. One
Well,
person,
what if you're a billionaire? You don't think billionaires should be held to a higher standard than a guy making $10,000 a year?
not in law. And it should be everyone
Why?
should be because everyone's a citizen. Who cares if the guy's a billionaire? Like he's just a citizen, just like everyone else.
Well, you have responsibilities, right? Like, I mean, we do treat people who are like, there are actually levels to this, right? Like, we do treat people who have more capital at their disposal differently than people who don't, right?
Socially, we do, yeah. I mean,
Okay, yeah, but socially just means how we actually do, right? And like the law treats it that way too. Like if you're a rich person and you get caught with drugs, like do you think you're getting the same punishments as if you're poor and you get caught with drugs?
in theory,
We
you
actually have the
should.
exact opposite. You're pretending like we have the same law for everyone, but in truth, you get the justice you can afford in this country, which means that you have more rights and privileges if you have a lot of money at your disposal. Let's say you have a whole legal team, you can have a fucking private pedophile island all to yourself.
Yeah, no, I know this stuff happens because I come from my brother's pretty wealthy and he got sued recently and they hired like a bunch of lawyers and pretty much beat down the charge. So
Yeah,
I know how
exactly.
this
But if you're
works.
poor, you can't do that. You just get fucked.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but I mean,
is it really realistically in real life, objective material reality that we both experience, that we both share? Is there actually the same law for everyone?
So it's not. It's a flat plane in theory, and then you
But
could buy.
in reality, I don't care
Yeah,
about
no,
in
no,
theory.
no, 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 no. It's not.
It's not. So what we want is we want to get to that level, right? We would like to get it so that we actually do have that kind of theoretical fairness of the law. But what that's going to require, right, is that we're going to have to actually hold these people who've been getting away with everything in the entire world, these world historical criminals, accountable for their actions. We're going to do that with the power of the state through a people's government.
Yeah, I know. Like in China and Soviet Union and all the
Yeah,
other
exactly.
communist states. Yeah, and
Exactly. That's what we
it's scary
want.
stuff. Scary
Why is that
stuff. Yeah.
scary? Are you an enemy of the people? Why should you be afraid? What have
I
you
don't know.
done wrong? What are you afraid of?
I don't know. I feel like they would go after anyone that's like in the upper level. Anyone that's doing like relatively okay.
Why?
Because you can't control mob justice. That's why you can't
It's not
control
mob
it.
justice. This would be through the party. It's going to be illegal. It's going to be a juridical reality. Like it's not going to just be like people. No, we're not Antifa people. We're talking
It's
about
like
doing this with proper trials. We're talking about doing this with the actual power and authority of the state, not just like vigilante justice.
I mean, like the Cultural Revolution, right? Where people just went all over the place and destroyed things and
The
killed
Cultural
people.
Revolution is considered a fit. Like the Cultural Revolution was an overcorrection, and the people in China recognize it as such now. But we've had cultural revolutions here in the same way. I think we're actually living through one right now.
Yeah, but people aren't getting hung and killed and shamed in public and all of that stuff
Yeah, they
today.
are. I mean, they are actually. Yeah, they are actually. Look at the
I don't
Chaz.
know.
Look at what the Antifa people get up to. Look at what's happening to Alex Jones. You don't think that he's being like effectively like this is like a cultural revolution in a way that he's being brought up and like being used as an example to kind of like freeze the speech of the people?
I mean, Alex Jones is like settlement or like his situation's fucked, but he did. I mean, he did get sued legally, right? I mean, maybe the
By the
amount was
letter of the
insane.
law right now, but
Yeah,
I'm saying that that doesn't represent justice in the actual reality of the world. Like I'm saying that this is unjust.
isn't it like libel or something? Didn't he get? I
Defamation
mean,
laws. Yeah, I think we
defamation. Yeah,
shouldn't have
defamation. Yeah.
defamation laws. Let's get rid of them. I think that we
Why?
should be able to say that the people in power are fucking awful, like that they eat babies even.
Yeah, but I don't know. It seems a bit vulgar. I
Do
don't
you think
know.
that someone should be able to get sued like by Hillary Clinton because they say Hillary Clinton eats babies?
I
Like
mean,
that's
yeah,
defamation?
she can sue him. I mean, we
No,
don't
but
know if she would
do
win,
you
but
think that she should be able to?
yeah, I think they should.
Why?
Because if something like that were to happen to me, I would sue someone too.
That
So
happens to me
uh,
all the time. I don't sue anyone. I just deal with it because
maybe
I'm an
you
adult.
should, but maybe you should.
No, I wouldn't because I number one, I don't have a legal team at my disposal, and number two, I'm not punitive and fucking shitty enough to think that that matters. I know that I'm not what these people say that I am, so I don't care.
Yeah, but if they're doing this to you in public and shaming your
They
brand,
do.
you should
They
sue them.
do every day. They do every day.
And if it's a large enough entity that can do damage to you, I would sue. Yeah, I don't just see
Why?
why.
I wouldn't. I just don't believe in that.
Well, because you want to make sure that they never do it again.
No, but they're going to do it again. People are free. People are free to say whatever they want. I can't stop them. I don't believe I should try.
Yeah, but if like a big follower account or something
That
is the
happens to
one
me
going,
literally all the time, dude.
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You should sue them
No,
if
I
you
don't think
could.
I should because what if they want to sue me for saying shit about them?
I mean, they can. It's fair game, right?
Yeah, I think it's fucked up. I think we should have free speech. Like if he wants to make up lies and slanders about me, I can state like all of those things are untrue and this person's a liar. And if they want to fucking sue me for saying that they're a liar, like do you think that's
Yeah, I mean,
cool? Like I think we should both be able to defend ourselves like in the court of public opinion.
or the court of law, right?
No, don't bring it in the court of law. I'm saying the law has nothing to do with it. This is when we're talking about people's opinions and people's descriptions of each other, the law can't judge on that.
I mean, if
John
it's
Milton
actually
said, "Have you read the
defamation,
Areopagitica of John Milton, who made the argument for unlicensed printing in in England?" Basically, what he says is, in short, the state can be my governors, but it cannot be my critic. Okay, that's what this is. When you're talking about like this is like effectively literary criticism enforced by fucking gun.
yeah, basically, because you're letting the government. So yeah, to a certain
So I
degree,
don't
yeah,
think the
that's true.
government should. I don't think we should have that power. I'd strip all those things. I agree with Ron Paul.
Yeah, Ron Paul's crazy though. Like we know that
No, he's
guy's a
not.
kooky guy.
Why is he crazy? I think he's brave. I think he's a
I
courageous
mean,
person his
isn't
entire
he?
life.
Isn't he like the guy that says like eliminate like everything? Like he's like eliminate
Yeah, I agree
eliminate
with
the.
him. Let's get rid of the DEA. Let's get rid of the CIA. Let's get rid of the
Yeah,
FBI. Let's get
that's
rid of the
insane.
DOD. Let's get rid of
Isn't
the
that insane?
DHS.
Don't you think that's insane?
No, I think it's perfectly reasonable. I think anyone who doesn't want to do that is insane.
Really?
Yeah, I
So,
think anyone
so,
who doesn't want to get rid of the CIA, FBI, DEA, DHS, DOD, all of these fucking
so like the people
unconstitutional
that are like,
branches of the executive office, all
why
of these
though?
people, if you don't think we should do that, I think you're insane.
Why though?
Because those things are fucking bad. They don't operate in our interest. They operate against our interests. They're permanent bureaucracies. They're not held accountable by the people. They're not even supposed to exist. FDR created all of these things unconstitutionally. He packed the courts.
I don't know. I think like eliminating every government, like that's kind of crazy. Like we would, like our
Okay,
country
you
would
think
get
that,
sick
but I
of.
think you're crazy for not wanting to.
I don't think most people would want them to
Really, you
eliminate
don't
every
think
single.
most people would be in favor, like of okay, maybe not the people that you hang out with, but all people that I know would be totally in favor of eliminating the FBI, the CIA, the DOD, the DHS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I've never heard a single person agree with that point. I think that's
Well,
kind
what's
of
your
insane.
background? Like, what do you do for a living? What's your class position?
I run a business with my brother.
What kind of
We're yeah.
business?
Well, he runs a few businesses, but restaurant. We have investments in restaurant,
You
online
don't. Oh, so you're
business.
just a capitalist. You're like a venture capitalist. You put capital and you invest in things, but you don't actually work.
Yeah. We invest in things. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't work. You don't like actually do real work. You just make money off of speculative investments. Yeah, I'm sure that people who make money off of speculative investments and collecting rents don't believe in this stuff, right? Because you're in the class of this. You're in this class. You're not a worker.
No, I mean, we do. I mean, I do officially work. I do have a management position, but
Yeah, you're a
um,
manager. Exactly. You're a manager. You're not an actual worker. You looking out for the interests of managers, and you're afraid of the people because you know that you rule. You effectively profit off of their labor.
I don't know. It's just crazy. I don't
Do you
think
see
mob
how
justice.
we bring light to everything? I'm actually explaining everything perfectly well. I understand where you're coming from perfectly well. You're just reflecting your class position and your class interests, and you're terrified of MAGA communism because you know that it would work, and you're afraid that you would actually have to work instead of just collecting rent.
No, I don't even think we would like. I don't think mob justice is okay.
Yeah,
I think.
because you're afraid that you're going to have to work.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we can. I mean, it's not like we were born into it. Like we worked our way up. So I don't see why. Everyone else shouldn't be able to do that too. It's not like we were born wealthy.
Oh, so you think that the economy represents natural justice on earth, right? Because like it worked out for you, so it should work for anyone who is deserving, like you, the elite.
No, I don't think we're elite. We're upper middle. We're not like Bill Gates or
You're
anything.
not
But
the people. You're like a little bit better than them.
no, I'm saying like, I mean, like I have like normal. We have like normal working people. Friends too.
Are
It's
you
not
sure?
like.
Because I don't know what your definition of work is. Because you're saying that you work as a manager. I don't think you work.
I mean, we do literally. I mean, we run restaurants. We run online
So
businesses.
you
We
have
run retail.
employees. You have employees.
Yeah, but we have to
Yeah, so you
manage those
know your
employees, right?
employees. Yeah, but are they your friends really, or are they like do they have to be nice to you because you control their lives?
I mean, I talk to them. I don't know if they consider us friends,
I
but
wonder what they say when you're not around, buddy.
oh, I know. We're pretty. We're fair, but we're pretty strict. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
I'm
pretty
sure
sure
you're
that.
well beloved. I'm sure you're afraid of them, right? If MAGA communism comes around, you're afraid of them holding you accountable, right? Because
Yeah,
right
but
now
I'm
they don't
saying,
have the power to do that. Right now they don't have the power to hold you accountable for all the
but
ways that you've abused them.
we haven't abused them though. We're
Oh,
fair.
okay. Why don't you ask them that?
So we're
Do that.
abusing
Do
them.
that. Call all your employees in and ask them if they think you've abused them in any way or that you're exploiting them in any way. Why don't you go do that?
I mean, they might say that because they're making like $7-8 an hour, but that doesn't mean that
Oh
like
my
that's.
God. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I understand why you're afraid of MAGA communism, my friend.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't see what we're
I
doing
think
that's
there
wrong.
is.
So you think there's something wrong with us? I mean, we're fair. Like I don't see we don't
I don't
treat them
think you're very
terribly.
fair. I don't think you work. I think you make money off of speculative investments and rent here. I think you actually accrue the value produced by your employees and you don't pay them the worth of the value they actually produce.
Really? You don't
Yeah,
think so?
I do think that, and I think they think that too.
I mean, of course, if you're like when I remember when I was working retail, I hated my job too. So, um, like I said, I don't come from a rich background. I actually did like out of high school, I did work retail, so I know how it feels. But
Yeah, so you don't want to go back to that. You know that working is actually harder than what you've got right now, and you're afraid that you would have to actually work alongside your brothers
yeah,
instead of
but we got in,
overlording them like an overseer and
but
collecting profits for
but
doing
we
nothing.
got into that position though, right? It's not like we
Yeah,
were
you
handed
think that
anything.
like okay, so like by the whatever however that happened contingently happened for you, you're like okay, well now I got it better than I did before when I actually had to work for my life. I really like collecting rents, and you know what? Now I'm in the upper middle class, and I can actually afford all of this shit. I'm not struggling anymore.
Yeah, but I think it's fair and square. Like we didn't
I don't
cheat.
think
We
it's
didn't.
fair and square. So, yeah, of course, you're going to defend the current system because you think it's worked for you. So that means it's fair and square, and everything you have is fair and square. And that means that people who don't have what you have, well, they're in their position fair and square.
But don't you think that you're just going to be eliminating people like us that actually have talent? Like we actually were
Oh,
able to
so
move.
those all of your workers don't have any talents. You're the special spiritual elite.
No, I mean some of them are young, so they might grow into something. They might grow into something better. But at the current position that they're in, they're less talented than we are.
Okay, well,
Objectively,
how would they accrue more talents?
going to school. I know some of them probably
How
go
can
to
they afford to
school.
go to school? Weren't we just talking about this? Do you think that you pay them enough to afford tuition?
I know some of them go to
Do you
school.
pay them enough to afford tuition at any school right
Uh,
now?
Probably like a community college. I don't know. I
Okay,
don't
yeah,
know
so
if
they could
those.
go to community college. How good is a community college certification for getting these sorts of jobs that you're talking about?
I don't know. I've
Not
never.
very good, let me tell you. Not very good.
Right, but still, like I mean, like I said, my brother and
You
I
don't pay
literally.
them enough in order for them to pursue their
What?
talents.
Well, can I ask you
You're
something?
keeping them trapped. You don't want them to go anywhere.
But my brother and I literally, out of high school, both were in the same position.
I
Like
understand.
literally,
I understand. That doesn't
yeah.
matter to me.
But we made it out. So like that
So
means
that
others
doesn't
could
mean
do
that it
that
works
too.
for everyone, bud. Like you got lucky.
I don't think it's just luck though. I think we
It's
were
not just
talented.
luck. Of course, you did some work, but what I'm saying is that you're in the position you're in, like when you were in those other people's positions, and it's getting harder and harder for people to do that every single year.
And I mean, we did this like we're like relatively we're in our 20s still. So like we did it really young. It's not like we're like you know what I mean? Like it's
I
just
don't know your
talent,
whole
right?
background, but I'm sure that if I really wanted to poke and prod around, we might find some more interesting things. If we ask about, like, let's say, what do your parents do?
Well, they're literally like lower middle, like military, like literally lower
Military.
middle
Okay,
class.
so they get
Yeah.
they're state service workers, and they got like union protections. They get paid pretty well because they're part of the state-backed institution of the Department of Defense, which is the largest corporation in the world. I'm sure their benefits package is pretty nice.
Yeah.
They
My
actually like experience the closest thing to like communism or socialism in the American economy because they work for the military, because that's how it works. We're in a fascist state. Your parents are rewarded by their military service because those are the people that are considered like the elite, the citizens that actually matter, right? Whereas these other people, you're like, okay, well, why don't they just go into the military?
Yeah, that's what we said. My brother and I have talked about it. We were like, hey, if we didn't get our college paid for, we probably would have just gone to the military.
Yeah, but do you think
But
that's productive labor is going into the military? I don't think it's productive. I don't think we should have a standing military. I believe in the Constitution.
I don't know. I think in this current climate of the world, like geopolitics, you probably do need a standing army. I don't
Why?
think.
Who's threatening us?
I mean, everyone, right? I mean, we
No,
got
no.
China,
Are
Russia.
they? Or are they threatening the military bases that we have all across the world? Are they threatening you? I don't think the Chinese aren't threatening me. Russia's not threatening me. North Korea's not threatening me. They're threatening the Department of Defense, and I also hate the Department of Defense. So actually, I like those guys. I support the Chinese and the Russians when they're attacking the Department of Defense because I want to get rid of the Department of Defense just as much as they do.
Yeah, but we can't like one of our businesses we had to move because it was located in Russia. Like we had to actually move it. We had like programmers
Oh,
in
you were a
Russia that
victim
we
of
had to move.
sanctions. I'm sorry that you were a victim of sanctions.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we were able to do that before, right? But they closed it down. Like they're threatening us with
No, we threatened them. We put those sanctions down. Do you understand? Your state created those sanctions. They didn't create those sanctions. You're really not following.
Okay, well, regardless, I do think that the military we do need a standing army in this current.
Why? The founding fathers didn't.
Yeah, but that was 300 years ago. It's not
So
now.
maybe they're more right than you would have guessed. Maybe a standing army creates a lot of bureaucratic like tyranny. Maybe having a standing army ends up with you having these permanent military, and then you have to have an excuse to have a permanent military, and so then you end up being creating an empire and having this stationed all across the world, and then it ends up being parasitic to the value of the core itself, which is what's happening. Like, why should, like, we have this military. What good has it done in my lifetime? Name one thing that good the military's done in my lifetime.
I mean, it's protected us after 9/11,
No, it
right?
didn't. No, it didn't. I wasn't threatened by anyone. There weren't suicide bombers on my block. I'm out in the woods. Nobody's threatening me.
Yeah, but what do you think would happen if we didn't have a standing army during 9/11?
There'd be
Like we would.
peace. The reason why 9/11 happened is because we have a standing army in the Middle East that shouldn't even be there.
Yeah, maybe you could argue that, but we were going.
I am
We were
arguing
fighting.
that.
Yeah, but we were fighting the Soviet Union prior to that, so it's just a lot of
We
jungle
shouldn't have
dust
fought the
that.
Soviet Union. We should have worked with the Soviet Union to create prosperity across the world.
I mean, but isn't it their fault that they didn't buy into our system? Like after World War II.
Whoa, because they didn't want their country to be controlled by bankers in London and New York. That's their fault. They should have just, oh, well, look what happened to them when that actually happened, right? In the 90s. How did we treat their country when they gave up on their system and we started governing it?
Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but I mean, you could.
You don't know too much about the collapse of the Soviet Union, the 90s?
Yeah, but didn't Japan and South Korea and other countries also buy into the system, and didn't it work?
No,
out
we
for
just
them?
conquered them. Our state, we have military bases there. They're puppet states. We control them entirely. They don't have any real sovereignty.
Okay, well, I mean, if Russians would want to live in Japan rather than live in Russia.
Why wouldn't they want to live where their people are? Like, you just think that they're traitors who only care about their own immediate economic benefit because that's how your class thinks. If we had MAGA communism, sure, you'd flee with your capital to Singapore.
No, my brother and I we have friends that bought citizenship to St. Kitts and other places.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah. Exactly. That's what you would do. You wouldn't stay here and work with your brothers. You're a traitor to the people. You only care about your immediate economic self-interest, and you would capital flight to some fucking cryptocurrency island or some fucking nonsensical non-state like St. Kitts and buy citizenship there so you could avoid the actual justice.
Isn't that's just smart though? Like, if we're like an individual person, isn't that
I mean, if you
smart?
think that being just a purely self-motivated parasite is smart, sure.
I don't think we're parasitic though. I think
you are parasitic though. You don't produce value. You extract value.
I mean, you need us for there to be jobs.
No, I don't need you.
Well, not you specifically, but maybe a certain.
Your employees don't need you.
I think they do. Like,
no, they don't.
Then
you want them to. You want to believe that they do, and you like when we create legal realities that force them to depend upon you, but they actually don't need you.
But then why don't they just go and do it out on their own?
Because we live in a situation where people are forced into having to sell their labor to people like you.
Have to do it.
Yeah, they do. Okay, why don't they just starve? Why don't they just kill themselves?
Yeah, I don't think that. I think it's nothing wrong with. I mean, there's nothing wrong with working in fast food or
there's nothing wrong with it if you're making the actual value that you produce. Like, if it's like a dignified job and you have enough to you have enough to accrue capital for yourself so that you're not like in a perpetual state of like shambles, right? Where it's you can't afford it. Do you give your employees insurance?
No. Well, not the restaurant. No. Actually, none of our businesses, honestly.
Yeah. So how do those people get their insurance?
I have no idea.
Do you care?
I mean,
I'm saying, do you care at all?
I mean, I guess. How do you define care? I don't really.
So no, you don't care at all. Okay, got it.
I've never thought about it. No.
You've never even thought about it. That doesn't keep you up at night. No, your employees probably can't afford the insurance. Like, they get in a car accident. You'd be like, why aren't you coming into work? That's all you care about.
I mean, in Florida, it's not necessarily required to.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, by the letter of the law, you're not doing anything wrong, right? You're sleeping quietly tonight, right? You're not worried about the problems of your employees and like their issues struggling in this reality because it's all working out for you.
So you are really a communist, like you're.
Yeah, I'm literally a communist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think you're crazy. I hope that your soul is like confirmed. Like, I hope that you find God because you're going to need it at the last judgment, my friend.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with with working up. Like, I would make more sense. It would make more sense if I was.
That's the sound of you flying straight to hell.
I don't think there's anything wrong with us working our way up. Like
Why
it's
don't
not
you
like we
ask
were.
your employees? Just talk to your employees. Talk to your employees. Talk to your employees. See what they think. Because they're the ones who are going to be judging your soul in the last judgment.
So you think capitalists are just bad people? That's what you think?
No, I think capitalists are parasites.
Yeah. Now you see why I think MAGA communism and
Yeah,
scary
you're
stuff.
afraid of
Like
it perfectly. I want to strike fear into people like you. Perfect.
so
This
what?
actually means that what I'm saying is right, like that I'm doing a good job of it.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think you're in the position to be able to tell other people that they're like bad people because they
I'm
make
not.
money.
We'll see what all the workers across the world if they agree with me or if they agree with you.
Well, of course they can agree with you. They're
Oh,
workers, right?
okay. That's all I care about.
So you're okay with this. So you're like actually a communist. I
Yeah,
can't believe
I'm
it.
down. Yes, I'm actually a communist. I'm not fucking around. I'm not LARPing. I'm not joking. I'm being 100% straight up, 300% real with you right now.
And you think it's like moral to be in this position to
Yeah, I do.
be able to say, hey, just because you guys happen to have capital, you're like bad people.
Well, what did Jesus say to the rich man? He said, give it your money to the poor. Why don't you give more of your money to your employees?
I mean, we do charity. Like we do charity.
Oh, so you donate to an NGO. What about your employees? You're like, oh, you tell your employees, oh, why don't you go apply for benefits from the NGO I support? Oh, it looks like you don't qualify. Rough.
I mean, but charity is donation, and like the St. Jude's, like
How do
giving.
those charitable donations work in your tax fund? Do you get tax write offs for that?
I don't know. I don't do
You
my
don't know?
taxes
Do you
funny.
manage your own taxes or do you have an accountant?
We have an accountant. Yeah.
Is he the one who told you to donate to these charities?
No, we do it out of out of just being a charitable people. But
Oh yeah,
I'm
you
pretty
don't get
sure. I'm
any
pretty
tax.
sure.
Why don't you see how many tax benefits you get for your charitable
I'm
donations?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some benefits, but
Yeah, there's some benefits. So it actually you have to it takes money away from your tax burden. So it actually making you money in the long term to donate to these charities.
don't you think that your like ideology, like your worldview, is like just rewarding like losers though? Like, don't you think that you
No.
actually
Well,
want?
yeah, sure. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. People who lose in this system are not losers spiritually in the way that you think.
I
The
don't think
meek
they're
shall
spiritual.
inherit the earth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but your religion can't influence your political ideology,
It
right? Like, it's not
does.
a good thing.
Why wouldn't
But
it? They're the same thing. They always have
are they?
been. How do we
So
govern the world? On earth as it is in heaven. That's literally what Christianity is.
yeah, I'm not Christian, but so
No, you're
I'm
not.
not
Of
into.
course not. Of course you're not Christian. What are you?
I don't know. We're like spiritual. We're not
So
really.
you're a pagan. You're like a Satanist. You're like a Luciferian. Bourgeois,
I mean,
Luciferian capitalist is afraid of MAGA communism. Shock of my day. Wow. I'm so surprised.
well, I don't know if we're pagan, and we're just like we don't read Bibles or go to churches or anything, but like we'll
So
do
what do
like
you do? What is the end result of your spirituality?
I don't know. I think it's like we've gone out to like retreats and things. I don't know,
Okay, you go
like
to
with spiritual,
parties,
like spiritual.
spiritual
We're like
parties.
spiritual. Yeah, like we like meditate and just do just like ease of mind type thing.
I feel like you're inhabited by demons.
I don't know. I think our lives are pretty good, and like I said, we worked hard to get
Yeah,
to our
Satan
position. So
rewards people in this world, but I prefer to store my treasure in heaven. We'll see. All of that gold that you've accumulated will rust.
so
We'll see
what do
your
you
face
say?
in the
So
last
what do you
judgment.
say we do? So what do you say we do?
Give your money to the poor. Give your money, actually give the money that your employee, go talk to your employees about what they think they should earn. Ask them. Ask them
Yeah,
how
but
much they think they're worth and then
yeah,
give
but
them that
why? Like if they say fifty
because
dollars an
that's
hour, why would we do
justice.
that? That doesn't even make sense. Like our business wouldn't function,
Not to you, but it makes sense to them.
but our business wouldn't even stay afloat if we gave them the amount that they
Okay,
would ask
maybe your
for.
business shouldn't exist.
Yeah, but that's not even real.
Maybe you
Like you
should go
say,
to work like they do. And then
I mean,
maybe you'd suddenly be like, I kind of want some MAGA communism.
I don't know. I do see why the government would see this thing as like a threat, though. I do see why. Like it's
Yeah, of
because
course, because it's run by, because we're governed by bourgeois parasites.
I mean that's what you say, but like I said,
Yeah,
I think most Americans would disagree with you
I
in
don't think
terms of
so. I think more and more people are going to agree with me every single year.
They ultimately will agree with you because they want revenge, but I think I
I
don't
don't think
think
it's
they.
revenge. I think it's justice.
But I mean, I was
I have
born
no
with.
hate in my heart. I'm trying to save your soul.
But I don't. I actually don't see why you like have so much like vitriol for what we did, though. Like I don't
Because you're a
see.
parasite. Like, it's not vitriol. It's just describing the reality of the situation, right? If it's like, let's say you beat your kids, and I was like, well, you beat your kids. You'd be like, whoa, what's all this vitriol for? I'm like, I'm just stating the truth.
Yeah, but like I don't think we're beating anybody. I think we're it's
Well, ask
everything.
your employees if they think that.
Yeah, but of course they're gonna say like, of
Oh,
course they're
so
gonna
so
say.
actually, there are people who would say that that's the truth. Well, I don't know, man. So I guess it's your argument versus theirs. They sound like pretty compelling to me.
So that means you don't have a. So do you run a business? Don't you run a business
No,
too?
well, you could say I run a business. I'm the only employee. This is my business. It's a nano business, you could say. I don't employ anyone. It's just me.
So if you did employ someone, and if
But I
they
don't.
you
I'd
so
pay
you
if I
never
employed
will.
someone. I would try to pay them what they was as much as I could.
Okay, but that's what we're doing, right? Like we're
No,
paying
you're
them.
not. You're paying them minimum wage. You're
No,
taking profits. You're not like. Why don't you make as much money as they do? Why don't you give yourself the same salary you give them?
well, I don't take a salary, but it doesn't. That's not the yeah, but still, that's not the point. I don't think business owners are bad people. There's a
I'm
lot
not
of
saying
business
you're a
owners.
bad person, like in this way. I'm saying that you're corrupted by your state. Like, you would understand the truth more if you weren't like profiting off of your own corruption and making excuses for it. You're like actively warring against the truth in your mind, and I think that is like the source of probably your doom.
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever slept like I've never thought I've done anything bad.
You've
I
never
think
thought you've done anything bad. I can't agree with you on that. Like, I'm sure you have thought that you've done things bad, and you've done things that you've regretted, and you've done things that you would
or
ask forgiveness for.
I'm saying in regards to like employing people and having running
Well, why don't
businesses.
you
I
go?
don't.
Okay, so why don't you go talk to your employees about this, all the things that we've been talking about right now, and you see how you feel when they start telling you how their lives are and how you've hurt them. Why don't you do that? Then maybe you will
Well,
actually then you might have a pang of conscience that you're trying to
well,
put away right now. You don't
I
want to
know.
do that
Well, I know
because
my
you
brother has
know
fired
you
like single
know
moms, so
you
I
know
know there. I mean, there are people in tough situations, right? Like I know one of our employees, my brother fired. Like
you're
he
like.
like
Have you ever read A Christmas Carol? You know A Christmas Carol? You know Ebenezer Scrooge?
no.
You've not. Oh my God! You don't know what A Christmas Carol is?
I mean, I've probably heard it as a kid or
Why don't you
something,
go
but
watch that? Why don't you go watch that? The Muppets Christmas Carol. I think you might learn something from it, bud. Why don't you go watch the Muppets Christmas Carol? That's the Ron Paul Bolshevik movie recommendation for you right now. But I'm gonna move on to the next people, man. I've had my fun
okay,
with you.
okay, thanks a lot.
What's up, Cash? That went swimmingly. That was great.
Man,
I couldn't have asked for a better person to
that
come
was
on.
amazing, bro. I just wanted to tell him to go on the land bridge. He's definitely going to Alaska. He like,
He's building the land bridge. He's definitely
he
building the
is.
land
He's
bridge.
definitely definitely building the
He's
land bridge, bro.
definitely building that land bridge.
Like, bro,
Not a question.
I like we make fun of Pol Pot. Pol Pot, but man, sending people to the country. Oh
That would
my
be
god.
mercy. That would be mercy. That's the most merciful option we have. I don't know. I feel like that's getting off easy. That's a light sentence in my jurisdiction. Man. All right, Cash. I think your audio is a little screwy, so I'm just gonna move on to the next people. No worries about that though. Space Lurch, I had you on, so I'm gonna see what Gloom Lobby 3 has to say. I got Gloom Lobby 3.
Hey, what's up?
What up, dude?
Oh, what are we talking about?
I don't know. Have you been listening?
I think the one previous to this one.
Yeah. I don't know. You have any thoughts?
Um, Well, I feel like I probably have more like philosophical or like ontological disagreements with you, but I don't know if that actually interests you or.
I don't know. I'll see what I don't know what you mean by that specifically, but you could let me know, and I'll see if it interests me or not.
Well,
I'll probably talk about it either way.
well, like obviously, like in talking about economy, there's sort of the idea of like necessity, right?
Yeah, sure. Necessity. Yeah, there's like the things that need to get done. Yeah.
But yeah, like to me, that's like so like yeah, that's like the Protestant worth ethic kind of, or like like Protestantism sort of needs to precede that to
Do you
set
want to
up.
know? So I'm going to give you a quote here. He who does not work shall not eat. Who said that?
Uh,
Where is that from?
was that Marx or what? No.
It's the book of Acts. It's the book of Acts in the New Testament.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. It's like
That's not I mean, you could call it Protestant, but it's just Christian. It's proletarian ethics.
well, I'm more interested in the uh like the like viewing like necessity through like an ontological lens. Like, is this actually uh can it actually stand on its own two legs? I'm not really.
So you're talking about self-sufficiency, right? But there's nothing that's
No,
self-sufficient
no,
anywhere in nature.
no. I'm talking about like objectivity of like a market.
Markets aren't objective.
What?
Next question.
Yeah.
Markets are speculative. Always.
Yeah, but like
The market doesn't determine what's necessary. The market determines what's profitable. The market doesn't care if eggs or like the basic cost of living rises and rises and rises. The market valued NFTs at billions of dollars last year.
but okay, but what I mean by Protestantism is like I thought like the view is kind of it's like the Hegelian view of capitalism is kind of like capitalism is Geist, right?
That's not what Hegel says at all. Hegel talks about the state as Geist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like Bonaparte or what?
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, I mean, okay, but oh
Okay.
wait, really?
Yeah. Have you read Hegel?
I just read a biography.
So no, you haven't read Hegel. It's okay. You can say you haven't read Hegel, but you haven't read Hegel. So yeah, I can confirm that for you as someone who's read Hegel.
You also read some books on Evola, I heard.
Yeah, I've read a lot of things. I've read tons and tons and tons of things.
But like, I don't know, like just reading something that's not really like.
No, of course not. It's not sufficient.
I mean,
like you read things and you have to read a lot of things and you have to compare them in your mind and you have to apply them in like a rigorous fashion in your daily life and sort of like hermeneutically constantly updating your priors and things, engaging in dialectical debates like we're doing right now.
No, because like the way you view books is like this totally like conceptual realist like way where it's like you read a book and then you automatically.
No, I don't do things that way. So I can correct you right now.
Like,
I can correct you right now. You're just projecting.
Possess it as like an object. I mean, that's not really like true. It's like a book is.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about because I don't believe whatever it is you're saying that I believe. So you could ask me what I believe, or you can tell me something and you're saying this is what you believe, even though it's not. You're wasting your time because that's not what I believe. You're just wrong. I'm right here. You can ask me a question, or you can try to like project your own like hypothetical version of what I think, but you don't know what I think. And you haven't read Hegel. Like you don't know a lot of things, and you're very proud, and you think that you know more than you do, but you don't.
I read secondary literature on Hegel. So
yeah, that doesn't count, dude. That doesn't count.
I mean, no, because what we're talking about, like when you talk about Hegel, it's just
that's like being a cuck, dude. That's like being a cuck. It's like instead of fucking, you've like watched other people fuck. Like you haven't actually read the text. You've read secondary commentaries on it. You've seen secondary commentaries on it. Read the book itself. Like go to the source. If you're not touching the source, then what are you doing? You're just commentating on commentators, but you don't even know what the source is.
I mean, but again, like that's where I'm saying the disagreement. Like it's like that's like a very Protestant thing to say. Like just immediate access.
It's very Protestant. You think that immediately like means that it's meaningless. Like because you don't like Protestants or whatever, you're bigoted against Protestantism. So you're saying, well, that's Protestant, so it's meaningless and bad.
No, I'm saying like you view yourself as having immediate access to truth the same way you have immediate access to God. So like you read you
I
read a
do.
translation of Hegel and you think you have immediate access to Hegel just
I
because you've read
compare
the
Hegel
primary
to
literature, but that's
reality.
not
I
what.
compare what Hegel writes and describes to reality as I experience it in real life and to how other people experience it through my conversations with them, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not just like taking this book and I'm alone in the wilderness and I'm like, wow, I have immediate access to God. Like I'm a human being. I engage in like the world. Part of that is reading books. A big part of it is reading books. But that's not the only thing that I do. Like reading books is important because it's like engaging with people that are no longer here. Like I can't go talk to Hegel right now, but I can read everything that he wrote.
But I mean, just like that completist, like I that kind of completist way of viewing books like doesn't make any sense. It's just like
You haven't. I think your way of doing things doesn't make any sense. You haven't. You're commentating on Hegel when you haven't actually read any of it.
but I know more. But it's like I know
No, you
more
don't
about
know
you.
more because that's like saying like, yeah, I know more.
No,
I
no,
know a lot about fucking because I've read about it, but I've never done it.
no. I'm saying I know
You're a
more about your book.
philosophical incel.
What?
You're a philosophical incel. You're discussing things
No,
that you've never experienced.
no. I am an insult, but I'm saying I know. No. I was just trying to make a point. I know. I feel like I know more about your like views and beliefs and philosophies than you know about mine because you're a
No,
more
you
known.
don't. No, you don't because you don't know how to read. You don't understand what I'm saying. You're misunderstanding. You're misinterpreting.
Wait, what? What do I not understand? I don't know.
Me, you're not understanding what I'm saying. We've all I've done is clear up all of your misunderstandings about things that I
Wait,
said because you don't
you're saying you're
understand.
not a Protestant or what?
I'm just a Christian. I guess you could qualify me as a Protestant because I'm not a Catholic, but I read a lot of
Yeah, no,
Orthodox
exactly.
people.
Like,
I read a lot of Confucian literature. I read a lot of everything.
so how? I mean, how did I misread that? I know that you don't like Catholics because you're always tweeting about it. So it's like that. I'm just like I
Wow,
feel like
that's
I'm
such
not
a
like
surprise.
reading
I'm
that.
saying what
I
you
feel
don't
I
understand.
don't feel like I'm
You
being.
don't understand. You said that I think capitalism is Geist or like Hegel thinks that. I'm like, well, that's not true. And you're like, well, you think the book is like this objective media. I'm like, well, no, I don't think that. So I'm sure if we keep going, we'll find a bunch of things that you're having misunderstandings about me on. But you think that you know me better than I know myself. That's insane.
Wait, but I mean, that's a common read. Isn't that a common reading of Hegel though? The
I don't care what a
capitalism.
common. I've read the thing itself. Like you're just talking about consensus.
Well, no, because like
Isn't
Hegel.
that popular? Isn't that a popular thing to say? That's all you're saying. You're like, well, isn't that fashionable? Isn't that a fashionable way to understand things? Isn't that what
Well,
they would
because
say if you went to a college course? Isn't that what like a college TA would tell you? Like, I don't care about that. I've read the thing itself. They're wrong. It's that simple.
oh, but okay. I mean, I've always associated Hegel with modernity. So then I thought
You've
capitalism
associated.
is
Think about the
pretty.
sentences and the complete nonsense bullshit truisms you're saying. I've always associated Hegel with modernity. What the fuck does that even mean?
Well,
Like,
I
what
mean, since
meaningful
I
thing is there
started,
to say to that?
well, I mean, since I started reading about Hegel, I always thought that he was supposed to be like it's like Bonaparte. Like he was sort of around when like modernity was being like the description of it was kind of being.
Modernity begins in the Elizabethan age. Hey, Shakespeare
Oh,
is modernity. What are you talking about?
well, is Shakespeare a Catholic or is he a Protestant?
He's not a Catholic.
Well, I mean,
That's
okay.
what Hamlet's about. Have you read Hamlet? It's literally about this.
Well, I've seen a
It's about the
performance.
destruction of the medieval world picture and the reign and the beginnings of modernity, right? That's what Hamlet is about.
Yeah, so I don't, isn't Hegel part of that kind of
Isn't
formulation of
everyone
modernity or what?
after like the Protestant Reformation like engaged in the project of modernity? Like who isn't? It's a truism. You're saying that he was born in this era of modernity, and it's like, yeah, of course, everyone knows that.
Well, there's people like Hegel, like say for example, like Hegel had intellectual enemies or like people who were more like uh not okay, or like
Wow, another
intellectually
truism.
again. What?
Another truism. Hegel disagreed with his contemporaries, and some of his contemporaries disagreed with him. Wow,
What? I don't know if
that's crazy,
modernity,
dude.
but I mean,
I never thought of it
is modernity really like a? I mean, you have to defend it as a concept. It's not like a given
No, I don't.
thing, right?
It's a reality. I don't have to defend it as a concept because it exists all around us. Like it's real. It's already here. We live in it. I don't have to defend it. It's around. Like you can. It's just there.
No,
Done.
but it relies on a kind of Protestant logic where there's like zero cost
Okay, so you
transactions.
don't like, why do you keep bringing up Protestantism? Yeah, like the Reformation was a radical revolution across like myriad strata of society, across metaphysics, across alchemy. Even the Protestant Reformation was at the same time as the Paracelsian Reformation. It was a radical revolution in like how we organize everything. So yeah, like obviously I'm influenced by that just as much as you are, because it's informed and created the world that we live within. You can't undo that just because you voluntarily go, I'm opposed. I think it was a bad idea. I think they should have stayed the same. That's meaningless. Doesn't matter. It already happened. You're just in denial.
But I mean, wouldn't you say like the modern idea of economy kind of, or like the
Are you like a grad student or something? What fucking productive shit do you do? You're wasting my fucking time. That's all I know. What do you do?
oh, well, I thought you just want. Oh no, like no. I
What do
mean,
you
if I'm like
do, sir? What do you do?
I have a painting degree,
You have a
like fine
what?
art degree.
You have a fine arts degree. What do you do? What do you produce?
I mean, I just been working on art and stuff. I don't know.
What's your art? Like, what do you do? Like, what art? Do you paint? Like, what do you do? I hope you're good at
Uh,
painting, because you're not a philosopher.
well, did I ever claim I'm a philosopher or what?
I don't know.
I
We're
don't
talking
know.
about philosophy. I'm saying maybe it's not your strong suit. I'm saying, what do you do? Like, what kind of art do you make?
Oh well, what's wrong about my philosophy?
I'm saying you don't have, like, you're just completely muddled. You've only read secondary literature. You haven't read any of the things that matter to philosophy. Like, if you were a real philosopher, you'd actually read Hegel instead of reading secondary literature on Hegel. You read secondary literature secondarily. You read the primary source first. That's why it's a primary source and then a secondary source. If you haven't read Hegel, reading Hegel commentary is completely retarded. So I'm saying like your methodology is completely backwards and wrong headed. So I'm hoping that you have something positive to bring to the table. Like, you're saying that you studied fine arts. Now, did you study how to produce art or how to judge and critique art?
It's both. That you make art and then there would be critiques, right?
Yeah, of course. So like, what kind of art do you make?
Oh, comic style
You make
stuff.
comic books. Okay, what comics do you make? Like, what kind of comic books do you like?
You mean
I
which
think
ones
this
have
is
I
more your
read or what?
speed. We can talk about comic books. I'm a big fan of
Talk
One
about
Piece right now. Have you read One Piece?
um back before it was finished. I don't think I read the whole
It's
thing
not
yet.
finished yet, but okay. So you read a little bit of that.
Or I mean, yeah, like 10 years ago I read them at the library or whatever. But
What's your favorite comic book?
oh, favorite? There's one like Highbone Theater. I don't or Black Hole by Charles Burns. That's
Oh,
one.
Black Hole's good. Have you read Duncan the Wonder Dog?
Yeah. I used to own that. Yeah.
That's a good one. I like comic books. Have you read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run? Like Sandman
Four of
comes
them.
out of that?
I haven't read the whole run, but yeah.
Man, it sounds like you haven't, like, you're saying that my completionist thing is wrong, but I don't know. Like, I think you should read the whole run of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. I think it's all worth reading. It's all one, like, work of art.
Have you read everything by Alan Moore?
Almost, not literally everything, but pretty close. I've read most of Alan Moore's work. His latest novel is really good. I haven't read like his latest like Lovecrafty stuff or whatever, because I don't really like Lovecraft that much. I haven't read all of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen either. But I've read like I've read all of his Batman work. I've read his like Superman comic is really good. I read all of his Swamp Thing run. Watchmen's fantastic, obviously. What's the one about Jack the Ripper? Oh, From Hell. From Hell is one of my favorite comic books ever.
Well, what's another artist you like?
I like a ton of artists. I like William Blake a lot. I think William Blake maybe is like the most important person for comic books. I mean, he kind of invented that style of printing. You could say, actually, I was talking about Mage right here, is underneath me at least. We were just talking about how Dore's illustrations to Dante are like the first manga. How do you feel about that? Have you read Dante with Dore's illustrations?
Oh no.
Maybe you should. I don't know what they taught you at your fine arts degree, but it doesn't seem like they've given you too much of a grounding in the history of your own medium that you work within. I think that you would make better art if you were.
It's a fine arts degree. It wasn't literature.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying that if you want to make comics, you
I
probably
took
want
I
to
took
read
like
some of the great world literature so that you can be inspired by that and kind of like work with that, and then it'll make your art better.
I read White Noise in college. Do you consider that literature? Or what?
Don DeLillo's okay. I'm not a big fan of Don DeLillo. He's all right. He's no Pynchon.
Oh well, I guess yeah, but I guess as far as the completionist thing, like, again, this will return to like the what I meant by like ontological, like.
I don't think you should go into the philosophical stuff. I don't think you're equipped.
Well, do you have a theory of like memory loss or like what loss of memory is? Like
forgetting? Do I have a theory of forgetting things?
Yeah.
No, I just happen to forget things. I don't have a theory of forgetting. Like, I don't know what that would even mean. That sounds like a poem. The theory of forgetting. It would be like that sounds like a Bronte.
Well, no, like I'm kind of saying, like, do you remember every like? Well, or like,
do I remember like everything? No. I forget shit all the time. I'm constantly having to like. I usually remember like I can remember like, oh, I think I read this here or whatever in this book, and then I can go to that book and I can like find the thing that I'm thinking of, but I don't remember everything perfect. I don't have a photographic memory now. I forget shit all the time. I'm actually pretty forgetful.
You forgot what?
I forget shit all the time. I'm pretty forgetful.
Yeah, but don't you see how that's a problem with the how totality then becomes a suspicious category because.
No, because it's outside of me. I'm not claiming to having total knowledge of literally everything. That's nonsense. God has that, not me. Okay. I think I've gotten all I can from you, but thanks for coming on, I guess. I don't know.
Wait, really?
All right, Punished, you're up. What's up, Punished?
Hello.
Howdy.
What do you think are the chances of like nuclear war in like the next month or two? Because I think
I don't think I'm like skeptical on that shit always. Like I don't really
same.
I don't know. A limited nuclear exchange seems more and more probable, but I don't think it's like I don't know. I have like faith in like humanity, so I don't think we're gonna have like doomsday like full nuclear war or whatever. Like we've come close to that a bunch of times, but it never happened.
It's mostly rhetorical.
I think it's not in anyone's interest to really do it.
Nukes aren't really used like as a weapon, as in like the destructive power.
Yeah, they're like kind of like bargaining chips. Tool. They're just threats.
Yes. Because if you use
like
them,
people having a gun
it's
on
like
their hip.
You lose immediately, right? If you use them.
Yeah, so I don't think it's like in anyone's interest to like do that.
The biggest danger,
but I don't know.
Biggest danger is if this is what analysts have said, like if Russia loses the war, and they start getting pushed out, then scary shit can happen.
Well, I think what that would really mean, right, is like if NATO goes true sicko mode, which they seem more and more prone to doing. That's like because I think that like as Mr. Scientism, a really great poster on here said recently, right, that like the liberal world order would rather like nuke the world than like lose global hegemony.
If they lose, they like their whole like story also falls apart, basically.
So that's like what's really frightening about it.
But I think that for America, like this war is not as existential as it is for Russia. Like if America loses this, they'll suffer a huge
we don't care. We don't give a fuck. Actually, low key, what happens? We've already accomplished all of our mission objectives, which is why I don't think that we're going to push too hard anymore.
Raytheon is making
because like we already accomplished it. The whole point was to just fuck Germany over, get rid of the Nord Stream pipelines.
That's the biggest.
So we already accomplished our goal.
Political struggle in Europe now, but no politician talks about it. Literally none.
Of course not, because they're all fucking bought and sold.
We recently had like the leftist green guys in our parliament, and they like a few months ago they went on some talk show and they literally apologized for not voting for more war funds earlier.
Yeah, I know. It's really like the Eurococks are unforgivable. At least in America, we have a strong opposition. Like we have a strong and a growing, stronger opposition to this.
Free than Europe, I swear to God.
It definitely
is.
It
was in the days of Marx. It is still the case.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so much of what Marx and Engels said about America is still true.
He literally talks about this in his his work on with Bauer about his conversation with the anti-Semite Bauer, right? When Like Bauer
Yeah.
says that the Jews, in order to be emancipated, need to completely lose their religion so we can have like, full political freedom. But then he says like, Marx says, like America is like super religious and they're the most free country on earth.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's actually like one of the things I always bring up when it's like people are saying Marx was opposed to religion. It's like, no, Marx is opposed to like state mandated religion. And he actually saw the flourishing of faith in America without a state church as like evidence that religion is freer when it's not compelled by the state. So it's like, yeah, like all of this stuff has remained true. I think the most prescient thing is like Engels writing about the American duopoly party system is like still true to this day. It's like pretty
Engels
crazy.
writing about how the original socialism was Christianity. I love
Yes, yes. Oh my God. I love like I'm like I'm an Engelsist because you got a lot of people who are like I'm a Marxist, but Engels is low key fash or whatever, and it's like you're worthless.
Yeah, those are all like the fucking anarchists. They're fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like those like
Marx was an anarchist actually. Engels wrote that on authority, but Marx didn't.
Like like these anarchists are like so like on Twitter they're like so insane that it's like almost like as if they're like a parody, because like there's like conversations I've seen here where like a leftist or like a socialist type says like, oh, we should have like healthcare and we should have like hospitals and stuff, and then an anarchist just comes along and says, oh, we should just blow all that stuff up. It's fucking
Yeah, anarchists are literally just like children.
It's yeah, but it's like impotent rage, because all of them are like, there was this great moment a few months ago where like some anarchist, some nihilist was like saying all sorts of like really radical stuff about we need to blow up everything, destroy everything, and then some guy commented saying that, oh well, you say this, but you can't order a pizza on the phone because you have to.
Yeah, you can't do your dishes.
And then the response was, "Oh, you're being ableist," and they got like super offended.
Yeah.
You're confirming what is being said about you.
Yeah, they're like actually, because I'm disabled, because I'm depressed, I should have someone come over and do my dishes for me. This is oppression.
It's so amazing.
It really is. I love I'm constantly amused by everything. Like this has been super amusing for me because I love when people come up just to like prove all of my points for me. I'm just like, thank you so much for confirming everything that I've been saying. Like, when in their opposition, they end up confirming everything I say. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Especially with anarchists. I mean, these types are just completely deranged. Like I had a conversation with some of them. Well, not really a conversation, more of them me trying to have a conversation. Them, being completely crazy, and they mentioned something about xenogenders. Now I don't know what that is. So I said,
it's like the xeno-feminist shit. That's like, they're like, oh, yeah, like I have a new gender because I'm a cyborg.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was, so I was like, that sounds stupid. And subsequently, like they went like ape shit mode on me. I was literally Hitler according to them because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. You got to know. You got to read your xeno-feminist literature.
You got to know all the Twitter lingo.
Sure.
All of our you got to basically be part of our little polycule. Otherwise, you're Hitler.
Yeah, you have to join the cult or you're Hitler.
Because like,
yeah,
one of the really funny stuff is that they say they oppose all like hierarchies and all that stuff, but like in reality, like what that just means is that in any anarchist like group, it's not like some official structure.
It's just the rule of force. It's the rule of force. There's no authority. They don't believe in authority. They just believe in the rule of force.
It's the law of the jungle. It's where
literally
the polycules run the anarchist groups.
Yeah, no, and it's like there's actually like power dynamics there, but they're like occluded, right? Yeah. Where it's like, it's like whoever's really good at manipulating others and stuff. This is all in the Anarchist Banker. Pessoa had their number so long ago.
Yeah. I mean, bankers are quite anarchist in many ways.
Absolutely. They're the greatest anarchists.
Yeah. we want deregulation. We don't want the state.
Yeah, we don't they oh boy, are they the anarchists. Anyway, I got some people lining up, man. It's been nice talking to you. I want to get through these three people, and then I'm probably going to be done.
Nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
Nice talking to you, man. Okay, we got Rob B. What's up, Rob B? Robbie.
Yo, what up, man?
What's up, man? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, let's see. Let me think about it. Oh.
It's all right if you got nothing. I'll just move on to the next one. You don't have to contribute. It's fine. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. You're one of the dudes that's alive, so I appreciate that.
Well, thanks, man.
I'd say first of all,
I'm trying to be more adversarial, but if you got something you want to talk about,
I'm trying to play a bit skeptical because I mean, I'm more from, say, the MAGA classes down in like Kentucky, West Virginia, Coalfield. So how
Yeah.
would you actually like give hope on this whole movement to them?
So I would say what we should do is we should seize like the coal, like the actual coal itself, from the private interests that own it. It should be owned by the people, and then we could have really good jobs for the coal miners who are then working for the Commonwealth.
Okay.
So we'd bring back jobs, and not only that, but we'd pay better than the private interest would, because and then like that means that like the profits accrued even from like this industry would then be reinvested in the local economy, so that we could actually like use like the profits from this coal to like fund like universal health care and things like that.
Right. And spread it out to everybody else.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
think they would relate to that? You think they'd get up on it?
No, I think so. I mean,
Okay.
like, what's the biggest problem there is like you like it's a similar error to me where it's like deindustrialized. Most like there's like the jobs that kind of disappeared. You got people like langering and like opiates. Um, yeah, I mean, how do we solve those problems? Is like we're gonna need to like bring productive industry back. We're gonna have to do that with the power of the state, and we're gonna have to like solve the sort of social crises that have spawned from deindustrialization. It's gonna be difficult, but I think these are the issues that those people care about.
All right, man. Well, good.
Do you care about those issues, for instance? Like I feel like you probably do.
I mean, to an extent. I mean, it's to be honest, it is kind of hopeless. You don't see a lot of hope, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to bring hope.
I know, and maybe like other people could feel it, but yeah, we'll see,
Yeah,
man.
man. Well, keep on struggling, man. Never give up. Live free or die.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
go on to the
mean, it's all
next one.
right, dude.
All right, demist. Demist, you are up. Do 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 do. Okay, demist, that was your shot. And I got Charles account for spaces. Okay, Charles, what's up? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yo,
What's up,
what's up,
man?
dude? I have this is just my old account. I'm not gonna troll you, don't worry. Um, yeah, I've been following you for a long time, and I find myself, I will virulently disagree with you, and then like months later, I'll find like, fuck, he was kind of right, and it really annoys me. But
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of
yeah,
people.
and yeah, I just want to give you kudos for, I don't know, I feel like you really stick to your guns and you don't give in to like outside influences, which is very, very rare. So that's a little bit of a, psychophancy to begin, but I'll try and make it more combative. So I'm a Christian, I love Christ, but another passion in my life is really the ancients. Like I love the Greek stuff, I love the Roman stuff,
Yeah.
and
Do you like Plato?
of course, man, I love Plato. I love it. I really find that was the height of like beauty and art. You might disagree with that.
I don't know about
Okay,
that.
okay.
I think Shakespeare's better.
For sure, for sure. No, we can discuss that. But and that goes into the communism because it's like I find I am so much in agreement with your ethos and the direction you want to go, but I don't know. I just am so repulsed.
Let me spin it to you
Yeah,
this way. Where did that Hellenic greatness come from? I could tell you there's a really good book to read
yeah,
about this at Michael Hudson's And Forgive Them Their Debts. Because for instance, Solon, the great lawmaker of Athens, what did he do? He forgave the people's debts. That's how they became such an
that's
affluent
true.
society. You look at like Kyrgyz's laws in
That's
Sparta.
true.
The communists used to call themselves
That's
Spartacists
true.
because they were believers in the Spartan Lycurgan conception of communal like commonwealth. Like they had communal mess halls, and they made their currency extremely laborious to carry around because they didn't want people to accumulate wealth. They believed in like the commons. So if you look at like where it's the like material basis for all this greatness that existed in the Hellenic age, it comes from these types of policies, these types of this is like what I think.
Yeah, and I'm not here to recommend you books, but another good guy is Moses Finley. He talks about the ancient economy, and I bet they would agree. I'll have to check out that Hudson book. By the way, I'm actually working a retail job right now, so if my boss comes over, I might have to cut out suddenly. But
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. I'd recommend, dude, like you should find some like better work than that because
yeah,
retail fucking blows.
yeah, yeah.
I would not. I would not. I would want to eliminate all retail jobs. I wouldn't wish a retail job on my worst enemy.
I wouldn't disagree with that. But yeah, so I just have this like conflict within me that I feel like I see in other like movements that get started that really try to, draw from the deep of the Western tradition, is like this, the cliche way of putting it is Athens and Jerusalem. And I just wanted,
Yeah,
what's your
I
thoughts
would
on
say
that?
Tertullian would reply to that. What does Athens have to do with Jerusalem?
No, for sure. And like, I mean, of course I would choose the Bible. I would choose, the way of Christ if I had to choose, but I'm like, we don't have to choose. We don't have to have that scarcity mindset. So how,
Yeah,
like,
so it's sort of like
yeah,
I feel like like Dante when he's in limbo, right? He runs into like all of the great like Hellenic sages. There's Plato down there, Aristotle's down there,
yeah,
Avicenna's down there, and it's like the real thing is that like their worldview lacked a completion to it. Like they lacked like something that Dante presents as being like found in like the Hebrew tradition of like revealed wisdom, as opposed to like the kind of Hellenic tradition of like natural law. So
yeah.
it's like I'm more of like into revelation. Like I think that is it allows you to find truths beyond the sort of delimited circle right outside of hell. Like Hellenic truth is good enough to get you out of hell, but not into purgatory or even to paradise.
Yeah, I can see that, but I just see it as the rock on which so many things break. Like on the right, they're constantly having these fights between like Christians and pagans, and the left. I mean, they don't even give a shit about these things generally. So,
Well, they're all pagans. The leftists are all
yeah,
literally pagans. So
yeah. And okay, so basically a Dante-esque kind of vision. How would that play out? And if we're gonna have a Dante-esque MAGA communism, like how do you see like art and I don't know, creating great men, creating the conditions for geniuses to come again and
I
like
think
create great
communism
work?
does that. Like for instance,
Okay,
like if you look at like China, right? Like the more people have the ability to produce for themselves and like the more time that they have for themselves, like and to not worry about these sort of like bullshit things, like how much time is wasted worrying about like having to find like the right care provider through your insurance, etc. There's all of this like stuff that just gets in our way of being even more productive. Like how much more time would you have like to like better yourself like physically, spiritually, in every single way if your working conditions were not what they are right now, right? If you didn't have to pay off
yeah,
these debts, if you were more free, then it would be a huge flourishing. It'd be unleashing the productive potentials of everyone. Like for instance, if you want everyone to like go to the gym and not like get fat and like sick, then it's like you have to be able to like you have to like give them a life where they can be able to do that because it's like that's a lot of time, right? Like if you're like working all day and you're tired and it's like oh now I have to go like not only do I have to like make like I can't just eat out every night or whatever. I'm not ordering seamless every night. Like I have to like cook for myself. I have kids. Like where do I find time to improve myself?
there is no time, and that's why our culture is shit.
Yeah, that's why there's a great writer, Jehu, who gets his name from one of the biblical prophets, right? And he said, communism is free time and nothing else. Like, I want to give more
Yeah.
people more free time so that they can better themselves.
I mean, it sounds like a good dream, but like, what about the idea like politics is the art of the possible? You think that's just scarcity
I want to
thinking? Or-
redefine what we consider possible. I think that
Yeah,
the limits of our imaginations and what we consider to be possible has been like been destroyed by ideology. Like we're
yeah,
told that we can't imagine or believe in these things that's impossible. But I don't think it's impossible. And I look
yeah.
at like historical precedents for the possibility thereof.
Well, I'm definitely coming. I won't say I'm there yet, but I'm coming more around. So appreciate
Well,
your time, man.
I think you'll be
Yeah,
there in due time, brother. So thanks for
yeah.
coming on.
All right. Take care, everyone.
All right, Gerald, you're up, Gerald. Can't do this for much longer. But what's up, Gerald? You got a shot? Here you are. You
Logo.
got a good
Thanks
Avi. Is that
for
a
thanks
is
for
that
the
a bunny
platform.
rabbit? Oh, it's a goat. You got a goat in your Avi. Is that a lamb?
2 goats.
Two goats. Nice. I want to get some goats, dude. Do you raise goats?
I work with farms. I'm an artist. I work with farms that
Oh, nice.
raise those particularly like cashmere goats. So they're super
That's
soft.
sick, dude.
They like ears. They like to lick your ears. So I had one on the
Oh,
left
that's
ear,
cute
one
as
on the
hell,
right ear.
dude.
It was like the Michael Jackson pose. Um, so anyways, yeah, I love listening to you. Not to be a fanboy, but I just want to throw something out there. sort of get
Sure.
your feedback, because a concept that I'm trying to flesh out is very much inspired by Michael Hudson and his view of economics. I love your contributions about Marx, but the way I see socialism's greatest strength is that it's a powerful mixture of capitalism between houses and communism within houses. And the reason,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, and the reason I use the word houses is that oikos, which is the Greek word for
Yeah,
house,
oikonomos.
is the root of the word economy. Um, so this notion of economy is really a lens at which scale you think of a house, and not necessarily Game of Thrones, although those were you know, the roots of what the
Guilds, etc. Yeah,
guilds
yeah.
are the roots of the modern corporation, right? So Google might
Yeah.
have had dragons, possibly.
They kind of, yeah, I mean, you could say really that like Game of Thrones is not even projected like discussion about the Middle Ages, but like we're actually just it's actually like a discussion of like the present because we live in this kind of like bastard feudalism.
Sure, yeah, it's a fun, playful, costumized like
Yeah, and
ability
like
to
the
sort of
dragons are like
process.
nuclear weapons or something.
Yeah, and you can process, you can follow, you can be the hero like with the um, and just bringing it back to the political, away from the oikos, in the political context, the um, this is for people that have been on extensions from March. This is like the final deadline for IRS returns, and it's a huge amount of forms. You had asked an earlier listener, what he does for work, if he does his own taxes.
Yeah.
And I'm an artist, but I guess you're still sort of treated somewhat like a manufacturer. You have
Yeah, you're like an
inventory.
independent. You're like independently employed according to your tax sheet or whatever.
Yeah, and you have to process like all of the different responsibilities of Google's corporation, but you do it at a really small scale, so it's highly inefficient because Google has an
Yeah,
army of lawyers to process and strategize, but you're doing it like you wear multiple hats.
yeah.
Um,
Like we should like really simplify all of this. Like it's created. It's like there's like a whole machine to make all of this as complicated as possible, so that more and more lawyers can have jobs, and like more and more people who like file taxes.
yeah,
I
and
think actually the people who own TurboTax are like the biggest. Like is it Intuit? I don't remember, but
well,
they're the biggest lobbyists to like making the tax code more Byzantine.
like those are to some extent bullshit jobs. I mean, Graeber would have called them like capital jobs, like because you're serving
Yeah, you're just
capital.
circulating capital. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not
so
producing anything valuable.
but like your marginal productivity is much higher than the person who's serving as a service member of an economy. And remember, like the IRS as an institution came about right after the end of the Civil War. So as you reshaped social institutions, you had to find ways to um, make the accounting work for the whole endeavor because you're putting people's income streams into different revenue pools. So from the financial plumbing side of it, that's really the roots of the IRS is when people were taken off the Southern plantation model, which were
Yeah,
big houses. Um,
yeah, that's true.
so, and I think that's a question about, going back to your point about maybe that's a reason to simplify the process. I would almost argue that um, the sort of the two things to respond to that would be that first is Marx wasn't necessarily a feminist economics expert, meaning that he didn't question the nature of labor in the way that modern feminist economics challenges the notion of what is the labor output, because now
Yeah,
we
like what's
just
productive labor or whatever.
yeah
Yeah,
because we just commonly accept that 70% of jobs are service jobs, although in some economies that we compare on purchasing power parity, it's the complete opposite. They're not service economies.
yeah,
They're
like China's not a service economy.
yeah, like what they price is the knowledge worker, the capital who goes out into the labor force and participates in a bigger system. They celebrate that primary income source much to a greater degree than we do. Here, you see a lot more pools of people who are contributing only service work, which is basically the food prep, the healthcare, the education work, and those people are expected to be the equivalent of a capital worker.
Yeah, it's like insane. Yeah.
So the question is, you know, as we sort of grapple with questions about like a national basic income, you know, I think that it's important to read the feminist economics challenges about what is the nature of work, A. B, the other contribution, like the other sort of thing that I've come up with is, what about for every house or corporation that provides primary source of sustenance to a household, there's only one vote per house on national elections. It's not about,
That's how it used to be.
yeah,
Like that's literally how it was. Like that's how it was founded to be, because it was basically taken, right, that like legally the father or husband was like the head of the household, right, and their vote was really the vote for the household.
yeah,
But
it was like
yeah.
one, the household, so the mother, the father, everybody who read and wrote have a contribution on how they're going to vote as a household. And so you automatically in this paradigm or this lens, you see a way to unite the anarchist left, people who come up with alternative household formations, sort of bringing them into the corporate structure, and then letting the household be the unit. Because if we go back to my original point, which is that communism within the household, meaning like redistribution of income according to the household's balance sheet, not by the individual person's balance sheet, because you're putting more of an emphasis on pricing and
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
allocating capital within the household based on the ability to sort of improve the productivity of that capital, rather than and then capitalism between the households. Because I think right now we already have very effective capitalism, and if we can better take advantage of it, meaning that we get really great prices fuel, on energy, on knowledge sources,
Yeah.
entertainment. Land is pretty cheap in North America compared to other parts of the world, productive land in particular, if you want to have a small farmstead. So between the households, the conditions are really good. It's just that within certain households, there's no real capital formation. There's no expertise. There's no discussion about the nature of work, which is, I think, like if we can reach out to the anarchists who are like, yeah, I
Well,
can have
kind of.
three
The
dudes
anarchists are
being
hard to
married.
reach. The
Yeah, but if,
anarchists are hard to reach because they mostly just want to, blow everything up. Like they're not so much big on like creating solutions to things, at
okay, but
least
the
as far as I know.
LGBTQ community already recognizes that not every household is led by a male
Oh
or an
yeah, no,
older
I
male.
agree. Like, I think that a lot, like, I honestly think that a lot of like, the projected backwards, like, oh my God, like, how is it that like men were the head of the household or whatever? I think that a lot, like, I don't think that was as like based in bigotry or whatever as a lot
Yeah,
of these
Martha
people say.
Washington brought to George 3 kids of her previous marriage and all the capital. And George obviously contributed to this country's formation, but she did as well. And
Yeah,
to
of
think
course.
that on a sort of household capital, warfare between the other capital units that she was competing, she was dominating. And it can come from any parts of the household. So the more that we free people from these misconceptions that it's always the male head of household, which it's not, you know,
Yeah,
it's
no,
about the
actually, it's
tax
like, well, the thing
forms,
is that it was like kind of like,
paperwork.
it was kind of
Yeah.
like, like women were like the ones doing like the real, like, management of the capital, like within the household. But it was like men were the ones who were like the like outward business facing, like, they were the ones, contracting deals, etc., between the households. So like really when they were going out to vote, it's kind of like more like they're the emissary of the household. Like it's not even necessarily like they're like, big boss or whatever. It's like that's just like their job. I mean, voting's not exactly a fun job, right? Like, I don't know. Like
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the nature. I'm trying to put together a book and just inspire people's.
it sounds good, dude. I mean, I feel like you
Yeah,
you got something there. I think kind of like in tandem with the sort of like Cuba's redefinition of like what counts as like a legal family unit, etc. Like that tied to like the sort of household where it's like, yeah, if you and all your friends like live together in this house and like you're
and
that's good. Like, I feel like you
yeah,
could get the
totally nailed
benefits
it on
that
the
all
head.
these
Yeah,
other things have.
yeah, because you're from Massachusetts, so legally, the way that towns organize zoning to keep the urban planning a certain way, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
The reason they do that, they call it single family zoning, but the definition of a family should be any type of alternative capital,
Yeah, I agree.
corporation sort of
I agree with you.
familial, like, hey, you and me and Logo are a family, like, boom,
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah, for sure, dude. Like, I
you
100%
know,
agree with you on that.
like, and then take that to the Supreme Court. If the towns in Massachusetts, like the really high end premier towns in Massachusetts, really want to go to the Supreme Court over it, see where it goes. But it'll advance. Like, there's no argument against that. If a corporation is a person, that's basically a family is a corporation.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's a way of like radicalizing that sort of like legal precedent, I think, in a very interesting way. I like that
Yeah,
idea.
because you're focusing on capital accumulation, not necessarily about like you got to earn it, you know? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
nobody
yeah.
earns anything.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
we're
exactly. I agree
like,
with
what are
you,
we
man.
inheriting? Like, that's the question. Like, what do we want to, accumulate? What did we
Yeah.
inherit and where do we go from here? That's the debate,
Amen, brother. Dude, I think you're doing good work. I hope you get that book out. And
Cool. Well, it's spaces like this that give me a platform to really like voice myself and challenge, because the only like by verbalizing it with other people that are interested in similar topics can you really
I agree.
learn
Yeah.
properly.
100%, man. 100%. Well, I think you're doing a
Because,
great job, and keep up the good work, man.
hey,
I'm
well,
going to move
thanks
on
for
to
the,
I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to be out of here. But thanks for coming on, Gerald.
yeah, of course. I just love listening while I'm working. I work with my hands, so it's fun to just tune out and engage a different part of the brain.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm kind of doing some chores myself right now. All right. Peace out, man. All right. Last one. We got Binks Bowling. Oh, what up, Binks?
Yo, Logo?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Yo, what's up? I don't know if you saw that tweet yesterday, but it was going around of it was like a local news story of this like guy whose son was murdered, and he kind of did this little story saying that like he forgave his murderers, right? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really look into the details because I just saw a bunch of people were like arguing about it, and I was like,
Yeah, and like all these like new right dudes came out to it, and I forgot the main guy, but like there was this one guy saying, "Oh, this isn't actually Christian. This is leading to the destruction of Western civilization because this is."
Yeah, because they just like they're like a real man would go kill that guy. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and like that's my question. Like, well, what is your like reaction to like this new right, like this Christianity that's like just obsessed with like masculinity?
I don't think they're Christians.
Yeah, that's
I don't
what
think
I
they're
think
Christians.
too.
If you ask them anything, you're like, what does Jesus say? Like, you know what I mean? They have no real. They're using it like they're actually all atheists. Like they all went through their like new atheist phase, and then what they saw like through this sort of like libertarian literature of like like the usefulness of like using these things punitively. They were like, oh, like I'd rather be able to use the power of Christianity punitively against my enemies, but they don't want any of the actual responsibilities and duties that comes with like being an authentic Christian. So like that's like they're like the Antichrist. Like they worship the Antichrist. They might call other things the Antichrist, but they worship the Antichrist.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing because they obviously like to me it's just like you don't have to be a Christian, bro. But like obviously these are like this is what Christianity does.
It's like you're just not a Christian. Like you know what I mean? Like it's like it's okay. You can just be honest and be like you're just like a pagan.
Yeah, and like
like they are
pagans.
pagans.
And like the right, like this like new right thing is just so obsessed with Christianity and like bringing Christianity, but like it's not Christianity. Like
No, the amount of their Christianity is they actually take the negative depiction of Christianity and they affirm that as a positive. It's the same way that like a lot of leftists do this, where it's like they take like people's negative depictions of communism. They go, yes, this, but unironically, they do that with people's negative depictions of Christianity, right? They're like, so Christianity is about being like racist and hating gay people. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know what I mean? They like literally think that.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I just don't know how to react
it
to
is.
it. Like it's just like I don't like I don't know where to start. This is so wrong.
You're just like, well, really, the best way to do it, right, is like they actually they at least have to cite the Bible as an authority, right? So you just like cite their ostensible authority. The truth of the matter is they don't give a shit about what the Bible says at all. So I don't know, they're just kind of posers and fake at the end of the day. It's kind of a waste of time. But if you really wanted to like get into an argument with them, you just cite Scripture, and if they don't believe in citing Scripture, like they disagree with Scripture, then they're in the wrong. Like you know what I mean? Like it's that simple.
Right. I have one more question for you. You're a fan of Bulgakov, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm reading a book of his right now. Karl Marx is a religious type. Have you read that?
Oh, you're talking about the other Bulgakov. I thought you were talking about Master Margarita.
Sorry. Yeah. The other one.
No, I don't think I've read that one. That's Sergey?
Yeah, Sergey. It's
Yeah, I've heard good things. I didn't get that much into him. I read like other Silver Age people, but I should probably get back into my Silver Age Russian lit. It's been a
yeah,
while.
he has a really interesting critique of Marx, which I was kind of interested to see what you thought of.
What's his criticism?
So it's hard for me. Like I haven't finished reading it, but as far as I can understand, he doesn't think Marx. He thinks kind of understanding Marx as in a Hegelian context is like an incorrect framing of Marx. He thinks Marx is actually a disciple of Feuerbach. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Oh yeah, in some senses, he's like a disciple of both. You know what I mean? He's kind of like putting together these things. But yeah, that argument's been made a
Yeah,
lot.
and he kind of says that his association with Hegel is very like it was sort of a flirtation he had because everyone at the time was basically like a Hegelian, like that was the water everyone was swimming
Yeah,
in.
like he was raised in the institutions where it's like they might not even be like so interested in Hegel, but in like all of the Hegel commentators that have been spawned like after like 50 years of Hegel commentary. You know?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, so I
So
guess he
he's
kind
like
of says that.
commentating on commentating on commentating.
Yeah, so I guess Bulgakov is saying he's really just kind of more of a there's more of like an atheist kind of influence in Marx more so than like a I guess sort of a
Sure.
transformation type.
Sure, there's like a type of atheism though, which is type of like, well, you could call it like a Christian atheism or something like that, where it's like, even Christ was an atheist like before the cross, right? Like, he says, "Why has God forsaken me?" So it's like there is like a kind of moment of atheism in Christianity in that sense, or at least state atheism, I think. Like, there's like, for instance, like when Jesus says like, "No man gets to the Father but through me." That's kind of like, like it's no longer like correct. Like that's kind of a type of atheism, right? Where it's like you don't like you have like to actually access like God, like you have to like access that through like man.
Yeah, it's like a rejection of like the institutions that are purporting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so I'm like I think it's like closer to that level of atheism, but like Marx generally like when he's talking about it, he has like nothing but positive things to say about Christ and his ministry, and like the early Christians especially, and I feel like that's more important like in judging like who's a Christian or not at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's like one passage that Bulgakov quotes where Marx is basically like, there's obviously something in the religious mind that isn't that the like just a purely materialistic outlook cannot satisfy. So we have to like look and see what that is and try to kind of adapt and absorb into it. Which to me that's like the closest I've ever heard
Yeah.
because Marx is like so like vague whenever I read on one religion, but to me that seems like the closest I've heard to like an actual statement on what he believes.
Yeah, I feel like he was grasping, I feel like he was like grasping for something like out of his reach, and I feel like that's part of like the project and like history even afterwards where it's like the Soviet Union being so antithetical to like Christianity, whereas now like the Communist Party in Russia is like found its like hotbed in like the Orthodox Church, and it's like I feel like we're actually sort of like rectifying that right now where we're like, well, actually these things aren't opposed to each other, but they kind of are like completing each other. Like I think communism, like a lot of dialectical materialism, etc., it's actually like deeply like Christian in its orientation and like where it comes from. So like I'm all about putting those things back together.
Yeah, I mean,
like you don't need to choose one or the other. Like you can have both.
yeah, I mean I think that's kind of what you and like the infrared thing, or I mean there are a lot of people just coming out saying, yeah, I'm an Orthodox Christian and a communist, I'm a Catholic and a communist, and
Yeah, I think that's the
it's
future.
unprecedented.
I feel like communist will be the way that we can like that'll be
Not
like
sure where it's going
that's
to
like
go.
I think ideally the way that it works is like that's like the way that we can mediate all of these other. So it's like either like someone who's like like I'm an Orthodox Jew and a communist, and someone who's like yeah I'm like a Muslim and a communist, and someone's like I'm a Christian and a communist. It's like I think that's good, like because then it's like there is that commonality between it. You know what I mean? Where it's like there is this sort of mediation that allows that also recognizes difference without trying to like abolish differentiation, but like maintaining those differences while also like kind of having a higher thesis.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the like the Christian like the historical Christian perception of like the church's role in politics? Because my position has always kind of been like since the early church that like the position of like the early church was that Christ is coming, like all this shit's getting torn down like pretty soon. We as the church just have to be here to continue the work of Christ. But as far as like interacting with or being a part of the world, being a part of the city of man of the Antichrist, like we should probably just stay like apart from that.
They weren't too
We have to
one-sided
be a
though.
part of
They
it.
were talking about being like good citizens, right? They're like we're not bad citizens. It's not like we're anarchists or something. It's just that we're also trying to do our own thing. Like we're not trying to like
Yeah,
just break all the laws and get in trouble.
I kind of frame it as like sort of an immigrant, like because if you're a Christian, you're a citizen of the kingdom of God, of the kingdom of heaven. So you have you're in a foreign land. You have to obey the laws. You don't make a fucking fuss. Don't fight. Don't like cause any fights. But you're like at the end of the day, like this isn't your home. I think that's sort of how I've always
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. I think that's like a proper attitude.
Yeah, and so that that always kind of I'm in always with this like tension with like the idea of like Christian nationalism, which is like the big deal now. Everyone's a Christian.
Yeah, no, I think that that's wrongheaded. Like I wouldn't want to like have like state enforced Christianity. Of course
Yeah,
not.
for sure.
But like for instance, like like I even when I was an atheist, even when I was like a 14-year-old atheist, I used to shock people in school when we had to like argue about like biblical education or whatever, because I was like, oh, of course we should have to read the Bible in school, and you should have to read the Quran, and you should have to read this. Like it's good to like have like I think people should have to like actually engage with like the most important texts and like some of the most influential texts in human history. Like I don't think that's like and then if they want to like read it in a different light, you know what I mean? If you're like reading the Bible in a sort of like understanding this from, I guess, a secular perspective or whatever, just like as an important work of literature and how it's developed X, Y, and Z. And it's like if you want to like go do like more, I don't know. I'm more in favor of like I don't know like not having churches than others might be, because like in the New Jerusalem there is no church. Like the church is all of us, and it's like if we were really governed by like the Holy Spirit, right? And like the New Jerusalem, like we'd have no need for like these rituals of worship, because everything we did would be an act of worship.
Right. Well, I was curious about that because I think your political project, it's not like a kind of a stupid Christian nationalism, but I think
Oh
you've
no.
said before that your kind of political project is sort of kind of guided by the influence of like the mission of Christianity, the mission of the church. Like
Yeah, I mean
its
that's like the
ideas are
most
fundamentally.
important thing to me. Like I mean I can't like be like, oh, I have to put that aside to be serious. Like it's like I'm undeniably that's going to be like I'm mostly concerned with like the judgment on my soul. Like you know what I mean? Like
Right.
primarily, I'm like this is like part of I don't know, my defense case, I guess, is that like I think this is like a good project that would help people, and it was like a good thing, and like I do think it's true. I authentically believe what I'm saying. I'm not like lying or trying to just manipulate people for bullshit. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's been nice talking to you, but I'm getting a little tired. I'm gonna sign off from all this, man.
All right.
Thanks
No
for
worries.
everyone for showing up.